And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hastaba versus Lupo, step forward, please.
21-year-old accountant Nicole Hastaba is suing her ex-fiancé, 26-year-old mechanic Christopher Lupo, for his share of a wedding that never happened.
Mrs. Hastaba, you and the defendant have been engaged to be married. And according to your complaint, you broke the engagement for whatever reason, and you had an agreement with the defendant that you were each going to contribute to the wedding.
Correct.
You put down certain deposits on things for the wedding, and when the engagement was broken, the defendant refused to pay you half of the deposits, which was your agreement. In addition, you purchased a wedding dress that you claimed that you stored or left at the defendant's mother's home that he refuses to return to you. Mr. Lupo says that you did have an agreement that you were going to share the costs of the wedding, correct?
Yes, correct.
But when you broke the engagement, you kept everything. I don't know what everything is. And in addition, you kept the engagement ring.
Correct.
So he's not paying for anything, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so you really want the engagement ring back, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You're a quick learner. Did you want your dog?
No, she could keep it. Just the point, like, if I wanted to take it back, she wouldn't have gave it to me anyway, but, you know, she can keep it.
Mr. Lupo, do you want your dog? The answer is no, she could keep the dog.
She could keep the dog.
But you want your personal items back?
Yes.
And the engagement ring?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have his personal items? It's not an answer,
madam.
I
do have some of his clothes at the house.
Well, tell me, what do you have?
Maybe some sweatpants. I mean, it's really nothing.
Do you have a jacket?
I didn't see the leather jacket. I did look for it, and I didn't find it.
Now, where's the engagement ring?
I have the engagement ring. I told him I'll give it back to him. I have no problem giving it back to him as long as I get the money for the from the deposits. But I did pay $300 towards the engagement ring, and I have that also.
Did she pay some money towards the engagement ring, Mr. Lupo?
Yes, she did.
How much was the ring?
$2,700, $2,500.
I'm trying to resolve this, Mr. Lupo, and I don't want you to. I don't want you to think that this is an interview for The Sopranos. Do you understand? It is not. It is not. So we're going to try to behave like this is a courtroom, and this is a serious piece of business.
She has the receipt.
Mr. Lupo, do you understand what I'm saying to you, sir?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do, because I'm sure that you don't talk the way you're talking to me if you go and you're talking to a priest. Do you understand? You understand? You try to act respectfully, which is exactly what I expect. I expect you to act as if you would talk. Strike that. I expect you to talk as if you were talking to a doctor who just told you that he thought you had a terminal illness. Okay? Does that settle it down for you?
Yes.
Good. Perfect. Now, how much was the engagement ring, sir?
It was around $2,700.
Is that correct?
I wasn't there when he bought it.
Fine. Is it a nice ring? Do you have it with you?
I don't have it with me, no.
Fine. $2,700. And she gave you $300 towards the ring?
Yeah, because she wanted to change the diamond.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yes. Next time you get engaged, sir, don't let your fiancé give you anything towards the ring. It's tacky, especially when you're spending so much for the ring.
Well, I thought she would have been happy with the diamond I gave her, but she wanted to change it. So.
That should have been something that gave you a ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling. Okay. So far we're down to $2,400 that the ring was worth. Now, how much were the deposits that you put down?
Half of it is $2,100.
Okay, $2,100.
$2,110.
And does your mother have her wedding dress?
I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you, I don't know where it is.
I'm sure she has it. If that's where you put the wedding dress, right, you gave it to his mother.
I left it at his house because I figured it would be better kept there.
So you have to get the wedding dress back. Do you understand? You're going to get the engagement ring back because we're going to resolve this very fast because clearly you two folks are not in love anymore, right? Well, at least if you are still in love, you're going to start at ground zero so that you can start building on this lovely relationship again if you so choose. Once you get back the engagement ring, you don't want to give it to anybody else, so you're going to sell it. Then you'll have some money to give her back for the deposits. Is that reasonable?
That's reasonable.
There you go. Look how happy we are. Now, you're going to look very, very hard for his personal property. You have some sweaters that belong to him. He's looking for his jacket. He wants his jacket back in addition to the engagement ring. Clear?
Yes.
Now, you are going to get your $2,100 24 hours after he gets his clothes and his engagement ring. Do you understand?
Yes.
You're going to give her the $2,100. Soon as.
As soon as I get my stuff, she can have it. No problem.
And you're going to get your stuff 5 days from today. 6 days from today, she gets her $2,100.
Sounds good.
Happy?
Yes.
Happy?
Can I just ask one question, Your Honor?
Yes.
What about the $300 that was put towards the ring? I didn't include that with the...
No, just a second.
Oh, okay.
You're absolutely right, because he's getting it back. So we have to add that on to the $2,100.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Sounds fair.
By the way, just for my own interest, why did you put $300 towards the ring? Is it true you wanted a different stone?
We changed the diamond.
You wanted a different diamond. Not we changed the diamond. He doesn't know anything about diamonds. Trust me, he knows nothing about diamonds.
It looked nice.
It looked nice. It looked nice. You wanted a different diamond,
Yes.
right? And he agreed.
Yes.
Fine. Then you agreed. Nice guy. So, $2,400. What else?
My records, my DJ equipment.
Everything that belongs to him.
I'll give him everything back.
You give
I don't
him
have a
everything
problem
back,
with that.
because one day after he gets everything back, you
I'll
get your
get my
money.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you don't get your money. Right?
Yes.
Right? So now he's going to get everything back. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
As long as she gives my stuff back, I got no problem paying her money.
He wasn't living up to any of the agreements. He would tell her, I'll pay her, and then he wouldn't come through.
Hopefully work things out. I don't know, maybe, in the future.
Well, if he had feelings for me, he wouldn't have cheated on me at his friend's bachelor party.
I guess we were both immature at the time, you know what I mean?
There wasn't any way I could have done it on my own. I needed Judge Judy's help.
70-year-old home health care provider Robert Schroeder is suing his daughter, insurance agent Julie Weeks, for defamation of character and for the return of wedding rings and a gold watch. Julie says it was her late mother's wish that she gets the jewelry.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Your Honor, this is case number 22 on the calendar in the matter of Schroeder versus Weeks. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. Schroeder, the defendant is your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm having a little bit trouble hearing you.
Okay, I will speak louder. Your wife passed away recently,
Yes.
and it is your claim that your daughter took certain jewelry of your wife's that you would like back.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what this claim is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter says that it was your wife's wish that she have this jewelry.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Weeks, was this the only property that your mother left?
She left some other family heirlooms and personal property, but nothing of significant value.
I assume that that's a box. Is that a box?
This is the watch that he claims, and the ring was my mother's.
I'd like to see both, please. Were your parents, Miss Weeks, estranged at the time of her death?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Well, in September of 1999, my mother was placed in an adult family home.
What was her illness?
Her diagnosis was multiple sclerosis at that time, and she was falling a lot. She was being left alone a lot, and Adult Protective Services were involved because of the fire department having to, she had one of those life call buttons, and the fire department was called to the house quite frequently to pick her up, and they felt that she was in a neglectful situation because she was not being properly cared for. And so Adult Protective Services started searching for alternative living arrangements for her.
And according to the complaint that I've read and your answer, there came a time around 1999 where you were given by your mother power of attorney.
That is correct.
Subsequently, in 2000, you were appointed her guardian.
That is correct.
Was her diagnosis ever modified from multiple sclerosis to something else?
Not officially, no.
All right. Now, what I found interesting about your answer was that in 2000 you were in fact appointed her guardian.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the court found that she was unable to take care of herself and make decisions for herself.
That is correct.
When was it that your mother told you that she wanted you to have this jewelry?
October, November of '99.
Did you take the jewelry at that time?
I did. And later, early part of 2000, she asked for me to give her back her ring because she wanted to wear it.
And she wore it until she died?
Yes, ma'am.
I do not want to get involved in because I don't think it's necessary to estrange the two of you any further. Do you have siblings?
Yes.
How many?
I have 3 brothers and a sister.
Are you in touch with your other children, sir? Do you have any contact with your other children?
Pardon me?
Do you have any contact with your other
No,
children?
I don't.
So you have no contact with any of your children?
And I have, even my youngest boy got up and left at the funeral when my wife, her services were. And my daughter, to my immediate left, didn't even take the time to go to her mother's funeral.
Ms. Weeks, very briefly, can you tell me why all of the children, from your perspective, don't have contact with their father? Your parents were married for, according to this, 47 years.
Yes. My father, from the time we were small children, was very abusive towards the 5 of us children, as well as my mother. And I have the Guardian ad litem report that has statements to that effect, if you would like to see that. And he was never supportive of any of our decisions or anything that we felt we wanted to do, and was very mean, has said very mean and hateful things towards my middle brother, to the point where
so it's a whole history.
Yeah, it's a very, very long and sordid history.
But, Ms. Weeks, doesn't it strike you that in early 2000, your mother wanted her wedding rings back? Why do you think she wanted her wedding rings back?
She'd been married and wearing them for 40 years, and she missed wearing them. And
that's usually a symbolic thing. It
was a symbolic thing, yes.
She missed wearing them.
Yes.
I understand that you had gotten a protective order so that he didn't go to the nursing home after a certain point. At what point did he stop going to the nursing home?
In February of 2000 is when the order of protection was put into place due to his behavior when he did visit her and phone calls that he made when he called her there.
I am going to try to resolve this issue, as I think, as wisely as I can. Your mother gave you this watch in 1999.
No, the watch, Bob gave her that watch late last year. If he wants that watch back, he can have that watch back. That watch has no significant sentimental value to me whatsoever. What has value to me are my mother's things. He abandoned their home, and if I hadn't retrieved the few family heirlooms that I had retrieved from the home, they would have been in the city dump.
I'm talking about these 2 things, Mrs. Weeks.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I can understand probably each of the children wanting to have a memento, something
yes, ma'am,
to look at and to touch of their mothers. I can also understand from your father's perspective. Are you living alone now, sir?
I'm living, I have my own room. I'm taking care of a lady that will soon be 91 years old.
But this is somebody that you care for, this is a job?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why you want these wedding rings back, Mr. Schroeder.
I bought those rings for my wife 47 years ago. I gave my wife the first ring at her home at East Indiana when I was invited to supper by her mother, who has passed away. I feel I'm entitled to these rings. I paid for them since my daughter has made such terrible accusations about me, which are all unprovable. And I feel that I should have the rings and the watch back, plus other things that she took out of the home.
We're not talking about other things,
all right,
Mr. Schroeder. We're talking about the watch
and the watch. Yes, ma'am.
And the rings. Now, let me ask you this question, Mr. Schroeder.
Yes, ma'am.
If you had to make a choice between the watch and the rings as a memento, which would you want?
I want them both, Your Honor. I paid for them.
That's not the answer, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your children don't talk to you, Mr. Schroeder. There has to be a reason. And unless you want to live the rest of your life by yourself, I would suggest you do a little soul searching and figure out what that was.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Schroeder says his daughter, Julie Weeks, won't return his late wife's possessions. Julie says it was her mother's wish that she have the items.
Are they of equal importance to you?
Yes, ma'am.
You feel the same way. One was a gift to your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you telling me, Mr. Schroeder, that each of these items are as important to you as the other?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to ask you the same question, Miss Weeks. If I were to ask you which of these items, memento from your mother, is more important to you, which would it be?
It would be her ring. I wear it every day.
Give her, Miss Weeks, the ring. Give Mr. Schroeder the watch. Mr. Schroeder, that was the wrong answer, sir. The fact that you paid for them and they were yours is not the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to tell you why, Mr. Schroeder. Children don't replace emotionally the loss of a parent, in this case, their mother. Sometimes mates replace emotionally their mate. They may never forget, but they replace emotionally. If you said to me, I want the rings back because we were married with those rings, she wore those rings for 47 years, they're part of our history, I want them, I would have given you the rings. And you have to understand that, Miss Weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
But to you, it didn't make any difference. You said to me, I paid for both. They're equally as important to me, so I want them both. Well, I knew that they weren't equally as important to your daughter, right?
That's right.
You have the watch, you have the rings, you probably never make up, I assume, is that right?
That is correct, ma'am.
I assume so. That's very sad, but
it is sad.
You're a grown-up adult, and he probably is a lonely old man who doesn't have at this point in his life the support of his children or his grandchildren. I assume you don't see your grandchildren either.
No, I have a call regularly from Mary Ann in Florida.
Well, Mr. Schroeder, you should do a little
Mary
bit.
Ann is Julie's oldest daughter.
How old are you, sir? How old are you?
70 years old.
Well, that's not so old, Mr. Schroeder. There's still time for you to try to do something to get back into the good graces of your family. But you also have to look at yourself and say, what is it that I did over the last 45 years to my family that makes them all cut me off? Your children don't talk to you, Mr. Schroeder. There has to be a reason. And unless you want to live the rest of your life by yourself, I would suggest you do a little soul searching and figure out what that was. Thank you very much. The case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I've tried to be kind to Bob. I've tried to show him care, and every time I open up and try to be kind to the man, he is hateful towards me.
I hope that someday that I can get to a point where I can see my grandchildren.
He has made the decision about his family.
25-year-old student Melanie Johnson is suing her ex-boyfriend, Mason Tony Wendling, for the return of property and for unpaid credit card bills. Tony is countersuing for damages to his car and for ruining the slipcovers on his couch.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 360 on the calendar in the matter of Johnson versus Wendling. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Miss Johnson, you and the defendant lived together for a brief period of time, is that right?
That's correct, Your
How
Honor.
long?
3 years.
According to your complaint, when he put you out, because he put you out of the house that you had been sharing, he kept certain property of yours. The property was a washing machine that had been given to you by your mother.
That's correct.
And in addition to that, you claim that he owes you for some credit card bills where he used your credit card several $100s worth. He says that you can have your washing machine back, but you have to give him the $250 that he put into the washing machine. In addition, he says that the only thing that he charged on your credit card was a $60 pair of shoes. The defendant has a counterclaim. He says that you damaged his car at some point and that you shrunk his slip covers when you washed them because you were a poor laundress. Is that right, sir?
Yeah, she don't know how to do laundry.
Well, that's unfortunate. I'm sure she has attributes other than laundry.
Yeah, she does.
Good. So get over the slip covers. Now, when did you stop living together?
It was August the 5th, the day after the Brickyard 400 in Indianapolis.
All I heard was August the 5th. The rest of it I didn't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry, August the 5th.
Did you say anything after that?
Yeah, I said it was the day after the Brickyard 400. That's how I remember, but that's really not important.
August the 5th. Mr. Wendling, I'm going to get you a counterclaim first because I like to dispose of things in a neat way. The slipcovers she laundered when?
In July. It was right before August 4th.
But you were still living together when she did the laundry, and she
Yes.
laundered the slipcovers.
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't do that on purpose because she was angry with you. She just laundered the slipcovers.
No, she didn't. I asked her not to do it. I told her that if she did wash it and dry it, that it would shrink and you wouldn't be able to put it on there.
Okay. And she did it anyway. Now, when was the damage to your car?
The car was damaged on November 4th,
Of 2001?
2002, day before voting day.
I thought you broke up in August.
We did. We have kids together.
Just August 5th, 2002, you broke up. So you mean the car was damaged after you broke up?
Yes.
Really? What happened to his car?
Well, he claims that I
No,
drove
you
it.
tell me. Don't tell me what he claims.
I didn't damage his car. I took it down to the gas station and came right back and did
What
no
were you
damage
doing
to
driving his car?
I asked him if I could drive it. My car was in the shop, so he said that it was fine to drive his car.
No, that's a fib. That's a fib that you're just telling me, Miss Johnson. I don't like when you fib to me.
Can I tell you how it happened?
Sure. I tend to believe you, Mr. Wendling.
Okay, on November 4th, the day before she goes to school, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, etc. We have a 2-year-old boy together. Plus, she has a 4-year-old son from her previous marriage. I go over to her house because I just don't like anybody to babysit my son.
Tell me what happened with the car.
Okay, anyway, make a long story short, the day of the 5th, we were arguing about the washer before she went to school. I didn't want my son to hear us arguing. We went out there, she kicked the quarter panel on my car, which she gets, mad and crazy all the time. So anyway, that didn't matter to me. I went back in the house, she went to school, me and my sons went to sleep. I'm a block mason, and I work real hard every day.
You went to sleep? Come on.
Yeah, I went to sleep on the couch.
Let's get to the
She
car.
came home, I was asleep on the couch, got mad, tried to wake me up. Her car was not working. She took my car, took it to the store. When she brought it back to her house, there's bumpers that separate the grass from the concrete. They're about this high. I have a Firebird. They're low to the ground. She ran up on it.
I've done it myself.
Okay, and I have pictures.
You go over and it goes over fine, but when you try to pull back, everything comes off the car. Is that what happens?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that what happened?
Yes.
So wasn't that easy?
Well, I didn't kick his car.
I'm not talking about kicking it. Wasn't it easy just to say, that's what happened? I went over a bump.
Yes, but
and when
I didn't
pulled
kick
back,
his car. I don't want you to think I'm
just a
vindictive.
second. He's not suing you for kicking his car. He says that you took the car, you went over a bump, you pulled back, the bumper came off the car, right? And you did that.
Yes.
How much is it to fix the bumper?
$1,930.
What year Firebird is this?
92.
Oof. Let me see the estimate.
Here's a picture of it. And the estimate. And the kick dent is involved in that 1932.
Is or is not?
It is. And she's wrecked all my cars, Your Honor. Every car that I've owned, she's wrecked.
All right, I can find the fender, because that you're not interested in, right?
Well, yeah, I'm interested in it.
You just told me a minute ago that you
Well,
were going
she's
to forget
suing me, so I'm going to sue her back.
Shh, just a second.
I mean, what's right,
3 hours painting is 2 hours and 85. Okay, now let's talk about this washing machine. Your mother gave you a washing machine as a gift?
Yes, she did.
Did Mr. Wendling put down $250?
No. He says he did, but he did not.
Tell me about it.
Well, his birthday is in the end of June. He acts like the whole month of June is like his birthday month, so he does. And he didn't give me any money at all in June. We were arguing in July, and he didn't give me any money in July. So I don't know where he's getting that he gave me any money whatsoever.
Well, could you please tell me when the washing machine was purchased?
It was in June.
Who went to purchase the washing machine?
I did, and I put it on my mom's credit card.
Can I see proof of that?
I don't have it with me. I asked her for it, and she didn't give it to me, so.
Oh, I don't have it.
Because she said, I'm tired of talking about this, is what she said, because we've been going round and round about this.
Well,
so
that's ridiculous.
that's what she
Can
said.
I say something?
Sure.
Like I said, I was a block mason, so I got concrete all over my clothes. I've had 3 washers on my back porch for months because they're broke. Okay, she puts 12 loads of clothes and a 6-load washer and
What does that have to
expects
do
it.
with it?
Listen to me.
My,
What date was the washing machine purchased?
I have no idea. I didn't go and buy. All I did was come home and there was a brand new washer in my. But I wanted to go buy a $100 washing machine from the appliance store that didn't cost no $600. I don't need no computerized washing machine to wash clothes.
You don't wash clothes. She washed the clothes.
No, I wash the clothes.
But I
I've
wash
been doing her
slip
laundry
covers.
ever since I've had the washer. I bring her clothes to my house, her and her son's and my son's clothes. I wash them, dry them, fold them, and bring them back to her.
What a great service.
Yes, that's what I think.
I don't know, Miss Johnson. I wouldn't ask for the washing machine back.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he sounds
I wouldn't
like
ask
a really
for the
great
washing
guy.
machine back. That's a great gig.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melanie Johnson says ex-boyfriend Tony Wendling owes for the return of property and for unpaid credit card bills. Tony says Melanie damaged his car and shrunk the slip covers to his couch.
Okay. How am I supposed to know what your mother paid for the washing machine?
I don't know. Like I said,
Well, I don't know. If you don't know, I don't know. How am I supposed to know that?
I don't have anything, so.
Well, where did you buy it from?
At the Home Depot.
Where did you think you were coming to today? You come to a court, you say, listen, you go to Home Depot and you say, I lost my receipt. I bought this washing machine here a few months ago. Could you please either give me a duplicate bill or something to show what the washing machine cost?
Well, I don't have a car, and he won't let me drive his car anymore after the incident.
Well, I know. She wrecks them.
So you don't know how much the washing machine was?
Yes, it was $300, around $300, a little bit more with tax. You can call my mom and ask her.
I'm not calling your mother. When you come to court, you're supposed to prepare your case. You say that he put things on your credit card. Where are the bills for that?
I don't have that either.
What do you have?
I have pictures of some of the stuff he has.
I don't want to see pictures. I'm asking for two main things. I need a bill for the washing machine, and I need a copy of your credit card statement because you said he put $600 worth of stuff on your credit card, and you don't have your credit card statement. No, so you have nothing. So your case is dismissed. Now let's get to your counterclaim. I think that she drove... Put your hand down.
Sorry.
Put your hand down. I find that she drove your car without your permission, and she damaged it. And they want $1,930 to fix it. $230 of that is to take out the dent in the... You said she kicked your car.
Yeah,
well, initially...
boost they got.
Speak not. Initially, you said to me, I'm not interested in kicking, I'm just interested in what she did to the bumper. So I have deducted $230, leaving $1,700, which I am awarding you, sir, on your counterclaim. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, he was portrayed as a really nice guy, and really he's not a nice guy at all.
Everybody has opinions.
He tries to make himself to be like this great person, and he's really not.
I do her laundry every day.
As far as him taking my laundry and doing it, he doesn't do that. He just tried, and everybody was like clapping. That is such a lie. He doesn't do that.
Fold it and bring it to her. It's like, you know, what more could you want?
There's a lot of bitterness and anger, and I think that's what it's over.
Stuff happens to everybody. I mean, yeah, you get angry.
I probably need to move like out here and let him stay back in Indiana so we can be like really far apart.
Don't let girlfriends drive your cars.
Don't get involved with men that are 10 years older than you.
Farm owner Connie Koch is suing 17-year-old Matt Regensburg, 16-year-old Brad Buban, and 16-year-old Luke Fagan for damaging her car when they drove it without permission.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. This is case number 356 on the calendar in the matter of Koch versus Ringenberg, Buban, Fagan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Which one of you gentlemen is Brad? All right. So what I want you to do is stand right over there. That's it. Now, Miss Koch, according to what I read, you had a friend, Kathy. Is Kathy here? You are his mother.
Correct.
Brad's mother. Kathy was visiting you at your house, and she at some point wanted to go home and check on her kids. So you said she could borrow your car to do that, as long as she brought it right back. Correct?
Correct.
Kathy goes home, and she decides to let her son drive the car back to your house. So far, that's what you did. You let your son drive the car back to her house.
To pick up my car.
I don't care what it was.
Not to check on my kids. To get my car so I could have it back at her house.
Whatever. You let your son drive the car back to her house. Is that right?
To follow me, to have my car.
Whatever. He could have followed your car. He could have been driving your car.
He did.
So who was driving her car?
He did. I was in my car. He drove her car, followed me back to her
Did you
house.
understand what I said? Try to pay attention. I said you could have let him be the driver of your car and you drove her car back. But you didn't do that. You let him drive her car. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, at some point, he decides to stop off and pick up a couple of friends. Is that right, Brad?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
And there goes the trouble. Because by the time your car was returned to you, much later on, it was totally undrivable. Had blown a transmission, and some other stuff happened to the car. There's where we are. And I want you gentlemen now to be very, very brief, because I've read all of your answers. Not to worry, Miss Koch, we're going to get to you. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe it's necessary, and maybe it won't be necessary.
Okay.
Because, you know, my credo is keep it simple, stupid. That's what my father always said to me, so I'm going to try to keep this as simple for myself as possible. In 30 seconds or less, you tell me how her car ended up in the junk pile.
I went and picked him up, and we went back to her house.
Went back to whose house?
Connie's house.
All right, so you went back to her house, but you had stopped off to pick up these two gentlemen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Where was your mother?
She was at a home.
Your mother was home. That's interesting. I thought she said she was in her car. All right, but we'll let that pass for a moment. So you stop off to pick up the two guys. And what happens after you pick up the two guys?
We went to Connie's house, and I took the keys inside.
Look at me.
I took the keys inside, and I put it on the table right in front of her.
And then what were you going to do?
And I went back outside, and we were stuck there.
What do you mean we were stuck there? What did that mean, you were stuck there?
We didn't have a ride nowhere.
Well, didn't you realize that once you drove the car back to Connie's house, you weren't going to have a ride anywhere, unless, of course, your mother, who says she was following you.
I thought my mother was there, but she went home.
But she went home. She was just driving around. Maybe she had to mail a letter or something. Yeah. Go ahead. So now you're standing outside and you have no ride home. What's next?
Look
at me.
Matt went inside.
Matt, raise your hand. Matt went inside.
And he said he was going to ask for the keys.
Who did you ask for the keys?
Connie, but she was sleeping, so I just...
Oh, now, so you asked her, but she was sleeping.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to explain to me how you... Please don't laugh at him. Bird's going to laugh at him. So you were going to ask Connie for the keys, and you asked her for the keys, but she was sleeping.
Yes.
So what did you do? Did you do telepathy?
I just grabbed them and went outside.
So you had no permission to have the car. Is that right? Now, when you got outside, what did you say to your two friends?
Let's go to Polk City and...
Excuse me?
I asked Brad to go drop up me and Luke off in Polk City and go back out there, but...
But what?
We ended up staying at my house for a while, and...
Who?
Us three.
How long?
An hour, maybe.
And then what happened?
Me and Luke drove around for a little bit, got some gas, and the car stalled.
Okay, where'd you leave him?
My house with a few other friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, let's understand this. You had no permission to have the car, is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
And you had no permission to be in the car, is that right? After you had dropped it off?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about you?
No.
No what?
No, I didn't have permission to be in the car.
Who was driving?
Matt.
Did you ever drive the car?
No, Your Honor.
Now, did Matt tell you that he didn't have permission to have the car?
He told me we did have permission.
He did?
Yes.
What did he say to you?
Well, me and Brad were sitting outside of Connie's house, and he went inside and got the keys and comes out and says that, you know, let's go. And he didn't say that he had permission, but, you know, he said, let's go. And
Oh, so he didn't say he had permission. Is that right?
yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You knew. Now, tell me about your car. What happened to it? They just say it stopped.
It was 70 miles away when the transmission blew from my home.
70 miles?
And then came back home and went filed a police report. And they...
Just tell me what the damage was to the car. That's my question.
Well, my damages are $3,490. There's a towing charge, there's attorney fees, and unused insurance, but...
I just want to see what the damage was to the car.
The matter is all I need.
How old are you?
16.
You're 16. Oh, how old are you?
17.
7. And you?
16.
16. Oh, this makes my life so much easier.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You listen to me.
Her keys were put on that table.
No, listen
Somebody
to me.
came in that house.
Oh, yeah.
Those keys came back
Madam,
on
you
that
are
counter.
a liar.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Connie Coate says teenagers Brad Buban, Matt Regensburg, and Luke Fagan drove her car without permission. Connie says the boys damaged the transmission, then abandoned it 70 miles away.
You know how I like to keep things simple? I want you to move over there. I'd like you to step up here. Your name is Kathy what?
Boobin.
Step up here. Let her stand next to her prize. Your son says that you didn't follow him to her house so that you could give him a ride back. And I believe him, because that's what they say. Why didn't you do that?
I just picked up my car so I could leave Connie's when I felt when I was wanting to go home.
Well, just 1 second, madam. She didn't give your son permission to drive her car.
She gave both of us.
No, she did not.
He had
No,
to
she
drive
did
it
not.
back.
Excuse me?
Someone's got to drive my car, which is me.
No, not you, which is him. Don't you get it? That's what I said to you before. If somebody's going to drive a car that doesn't belong to them, it's going to be you, not him. So he drives your car, and you drive her car.
That's probably how it should have been done.
Right. Because but for that, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, everybody knows 16-year-old boys and cars don't mix. They're fools. And when they have friends, they're bigger fools. Now, you should have anticipated that. You didn't. Therefore, I am not holding these two boys' parents responsible. I'm holding you responsible for the whole thing. Because I'm holding him responsible for the whole thing. You want to go after them? Sue him. If you came before me, you'd be totally unsuccessful. But for your actions, you're the adult. He never would have had his hands on the keys to her car. You got it? Now, if the boys had gone into her house and you had nothing to do with that, and each one of the boys told me the same story, he got the keys, he drove the car with them, he was also a passenger who knew what was going on, and you had nothing to do with it, all three of you would be equally responsible. But in this case, you were the one who controlled the keys to that car. If you had done the right thing and said, follow me back, I'm taking Connie's car, you drive my car, when we get to Connie's house, going inside, I'll be right out. You put Connie's keys someplace where Connie can get her keys if she's sleeping, you come outside, you say, now drive me home.
That's what happened.
No, it's not what happened. You were not driving Connie's car.
He put him on the table.
You listen to me. You were not driving Connie's car back to her house. He was. He should have been driving your car, not Connie's car. You want to give a 16-year-old permission to drive a car and to pick up friends? Let it be your car, not your friend's car. She was doing you a service. Judgment for the plaintiff against this defendant only in the amount of $3,000. And if you think you can prove a case against the parents of these two boys, you go ahead and try. You will be unsuccessful here because you had the ability, you're the adult, you had the ability to ensure that her car got home safely, and you chose not to do that. These parents didn't. They had no idea what was going on. Only you did.
Her keys were left on her
Only you did. You had the ability to see to it that her car was returned to her house
safely. It was
safely.
returned in her driveway.
No, it wasn't.
And her keys were put on that table.
No, listen
Somebody
to me.
came in that house.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
took those
you
keys
can tell
off
me,
that table.
Put
Your
that
Honor.
down. You can tell me anything that you like, and I'm telling you, you had the responsibility to see
And
to
I
it
did
that
it.
yours.
And it came back. Those keys came back
Madam,
on
you
that
are
counter.
a liar. Your
I'm not
son
lying.
says
There's
you
nothing to lie
are a
about.
liar. I believe you're a liar. Your son just told me you're a liar. He just told me that you never followed him back to her house to drive him home because they were there stranded. And you said, I followed him back there, which is a lot of baloney. So you're a liar, you're responsible. Judgment for the plaintiff against this defendant only, $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm not a liar.
All I know is my police report says that Kathy admitted to knowing that they were taking the vehicle.
It put a strain on Connie because she was without a car.
I'm still without a vehicle.
I carted her around. I tried to be very helpful.
I've gotten nowhere. They were said, please don't press charges. We'll get it fixed. We'll get it fixed.
I was a good neighbor. She's been a good neighbor. It's what neighbors are supposed to do.
Commercial fisherman Harry Burroughs and his wife Beth are suing their deceased son's friend, 25-year-old construction worker Cameron Britt, and his mother, Judy Britt. The Burroughs claim Cameron refuses to pay back a car loan.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 37 on the calendar in the matter of Burroughs versus Britt. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Burroughs, it is your claim that you loaned the defendant. You're not a party to this. Could you have a seat, please? That you loaned the defendant $3,000 for the purpose of purchasing a car, and that he has not repaid that loan. The defendant says that he did in fact repay the loan by working for you in your fishing business. That's your defense.
Yes.
Put your hands down, sir. How did you know him?
I met him through a friend of my deceased son's.
How did that come about?
It just happened through because of my deceased son's friends, were coming over to support us over because of this tragedy of his death.
When was that, sir?
Be a year, June 12th. Be a year.
And tell me how this car loan came about.
I've been helping out some of the kids, that had been having hard times and so forth, financially, and getting them jobs and stuff like that there, because I felt like I wasn't doing enough for my own son when he was here, and so I was kind of reaching out to him. A lot of the kids were showing up, and we all became real close.
Did you ever give any of these other friends money?
Yeah, money, and I got them jobs and everything, and they all pretty well paid back, and they're doing good.
All right, now tell me how this loan for a car came about with Mr. Britt.
He needed wheels to get a job, to get back and forth to work if he was going to get a job.
Is that what he told you?
Well, he said wheels would help.
Well, then what kind of conversation did you have with Mr. Britt about the car?
Well, it was $3,000, and he said he would pay back $200 a week. I told him I thought that was a little steep and kind of hard, but him having 2 kids and everything and staying with his parents. And I said, well, you can just pay me maybe a smaller amount. But he said he could pay $200 a week, no problem.
Okay, so you wrote out the check for $3,000 for the car.
No, I gave cash to the guy who had the car, with Cameron and his mom standing there.
And the only reason that the defendant's mother is here is because I gather from your papers there was an arrangement that the car would be titled in her name.
Right.
Why was the car going to be titled in her name?
Because Cameron is on parole or probation, whatever, so he has to stay at her house. She was able to keep up with him better than I was. If the title was in her name, she would hopefully do the right thing if he didn't come up with the money weekly like he was supposed to do.
Now, did he pay you in cash any of this $3,000 back?
Yes.
How much?
He paid me $150 2 times.
When?
The first date he doesn't know. He didn't write a date beside it, but the second time was on February 11th.
And what happened after February?
We went on a fishing excursion for the weekend.
Are you a commercial fisherman?
Yes, I commercial fish, and I also work as an operator at the coal terminal.
When he went with you fishing, was that on your business?
See, it can be either business or pleasure, because sometimes the fishing's not good, and sometimes you catch enough to eat, and sometimes you catch more than enough to eat, and then you can sell some of the fish and make money. But it was a weekend away from everything, I guess, is what you would call it.
Okay, but after February 11th, he didn't give you any money.
No.
Okay, Mr. Britton, now I'll hear from you, sir.
How are you doing?
Excuse me?
I said, how are you doing this morning?
That's not relevant
Okay.
to this case.
All right. Well, our agreement was that if I fished with him 4 weeks for 3 days a week, that my car would be paid for, which that didn't happen. I fished the first week, he bought the car.
Okay, your agreement was if you fished with him for 4 weeks,
Right.
3 days a week,
Right.
then the car would be paid for,
Exactly.
and in effect, you would be making $750 a week.
I should have been earning more than that.
No, but that would mean,
Right.
based upon your statement,
Right.
working 3 days a week,
Right.
3 days a week, that you would be earning $750 a week,
Right.
or $250 per day.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you say that was your agreement.
Right.
Did you fish with him for the 4
Okay.
weeks?
The first week I fished, we come back. He bought me the car. We was leaving to go fishing that next Wednesday. That same Wednesday morning, he gave me the $3,000. We went to the place. I bought the car from who I bought the car from. So I fished that second week with him, 3 days. We come back. The next week we go down Wednesday. I was stuck till Sunday, which equals 6 days. So I figured that 3 days a week for 4 weeks, if I fished 6 days the last week, I was through.
So you're telling me that you fished every day, and every day you fished you made money?
Oh, he got $1.75 a pound of fish, and we was bringing fish in that was 25 pounds a piece, and he would bring 80 of them in. You can average his money up. And I didn't get none, I didn't see none of the money. I was supposed to get a quarter. I'm a boatmate. I didn't get a quarter.
How many people were on the boat?
Me and him.
Just the two of you?
And he didn't do nothing but drive. I caught everything.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Harry and Beth Burrows say their deceased son's friend, Cameron Britt, owes for a car loan. Cameron says he paid them back by working on their boat.
Mr. Burrows, on the days that Mr. Britt went fishing with you, did you do it for commercial purposes, sir?
On some of the occasions, yes, and some of the occasions, not.
When you had your best day, commercial fishing, how much did you make?
The best day, around $1,200.
How many days did Mr. Britt fish with you when he was not paid?
We probably fished together 7 or 8 times, and there was never agreement on paying him anything. You know, anything I was to give him was out of my pocket, out of the kindness of my heart.
No, I don't believe that's true.
You know,
Mr. Burrows, listen to me. I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that that was his understanding. Why would anybody who needed money go out to work with you and not expect any kind of compensation?
He didn't have a job. He wouldn't do anything else.
Can I
Well,
say
where did he get the money to give you the $300?
probably Social Security that he gets for his 3 children because their mother is dead. I would assume he gets Social Security. I don't know.
He
for
wouldn't get them unless he had the children with him.
He does. The mother is dead.
I raised my kids, but she gets all that money. I don't get none of it.
Okay, but he gave. Now you gave him, Mr. Britt, according to Mr. Burrows, $300 in cash.
I've given him no money.
No, I don't believe that. Listen to me. I do not believe that you didn't give him $300 in cash, sir.
I ain't signed nothing.
I don't care what you said you didn't sign, Mr. Britt. The plaintiff would not say you gave him money if you didn't give him money. That would be stupid of him to say.
I didn't give him no money.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You know what your problem is? Your problem is you're trying to make a case that this was for barter, and you feel as if you gave him any money, that would take away from your case. But that's not necessarily true. What is true is, since if I don't believe you about something that you say to me, I tend to disbelieve other things too.
Right.
So there would be no reason for him to lie and say you gave him some money.
The reason to lie, I don't know either. But I gave him no cash. None at all.
Really?
I wasn't working. You just heard the man. I got the car out of work and I had no money. I lost my job for fishing with him. I was working at Superior Structures, and because I fished with him, I lost my job.
Okay.
Can I say one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
That during the fishing part of the time, we were friends, but the car come to me for working. I never had a deal to pay him no money. Mm-hmm. Where the money come up is the last week when he didn't have nobody to go fishing and make him another $15,000. He got mad. He threatened to burn my car. My car was keyed up. Somebody had punched the hood. I bought the car because I liked it, and I got the bill of sale where I had to go sell my car and buy me a $300 car, and him himself has called my cell phone. I should have brought it with me. Threatened to burn my car.
He's angry.
Well, I understand he's angry, but I paid
he's
for
angry.
the car.
All right, good. I'm ready to make a decision.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
he got violent and had to be thrown out of my house by a police officer. And throughout our relationship, he's hurt me.
Listen, you mean you're talking about throughout the 2.5 or 3 years you were living together?
Yeah.
Then you don't get paid for that. You end the relationship, you don't get paid for that.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Harry and Beth Burrows say their deceased son's friend, Cameron Britt, owes for a car loan. Cameron says he paid them back by working on their boat.
Mr. and Mrs. Burrows, I think that you probably tried to do a nice thing for Mr. Britt by laying out this money for him to have a car. And I think that it is unreasonable to assume that Mr. Britt would invest days of his time without compensation in your commercial fishing venture where, according to you, you made probably $1,200 a day, sometimes more, sometimes less.
Sometimes nothing.
Lots of times
Sometimes nothing. But that's not his fault. That's not his fault. He's not your partner. So according to you, Mr. Burrows, he worked for you fishing about 7 times. And I am gauging 7 times at the rate of $250 a day. And from the $3,000, I am deducting $1,750, which leaves a balance of $1,250 that he owes you. Now, I would ordinarily deduct from that the $300 that you say he paid you, leaving $950, but Mr. Britt is insistent that he didn't give you any money.
I didn't.
So I'm entering a judgment in your favor in the amount of $1,250. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I think they were crazy.
I tried to help out somebody in need.
Told me he was gonna burn my car.
He made an allegation of burning my boat.
He's trying to put me back in prison now. He's got all other kind of charges on me.
Sometimes the good guys just don't finish it first.
19-year-old escrow assistant Danielle Yankowski is suing her former landlord, contractor Rick Schaefer, for the return of her security deposit and sexual harassment. Rick is countersuing for 2 months' rent, property damage, and harassment.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Thanks. Your Honor, this is case number 226 on the calendar in the matter of Yankowski versus Schaefer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Yankowski, you rented a room from the defendant. It was a short-term arrangement. You weren't happy. He wasn't happy. You claim he owes you money. That money is from your security deposit, which he didn't return. And you also want a whole bunch of punitive damages. Because how much was your security deposit?
$450.
$450, but you're suing him for $2,000 because you say he aggravated you. He says that you're a troublemaker, that you used up your security deposit because you made a big mess, and he's counterclaiming for $1,600 because he says you owe him for rent, punitive damages, you caused him to lose a tenant, and you aggravated him, so he wants a whole bunch of money from you. Don't people know how to, if things don't work out, just to go their separate ways and say goodbye?
If they did, we wouldn't be in business.
When did you rent the room, Miss Yankowski?
I moved in on June 8th.
You found them through an ad in the paper, through...
Through a rental service. You pay money, they give you a listing.
How much was the security deposit?
$450.
Is that right so far?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the rent for the room?
The rent for the room was $450 plus utilities.
How long did you stay?
A month.
And you paid for the month that you were there?
Yes.
During that time, he gave you a 30-day notice to leave?
Yes.
Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you keep her security deposit?
First of all, she caused some damages to my home.
Tell me.
After I gave her the 30 days notice, she was going around slamming cabinet doors that were just remodeled, and they bent. The
cabinet doors bent?
Yes.
What kind of substance did you remodel them with?
Wood.
And she bent the wood? Mr. Schaefer.
I can show you easier than I can tell you. Sure. And she also left water on the floor during her showers. Here's the cabinet door that she bent. And this is also, she was throwing away the silverware in the trash after I gave her notice.
Did you slam this door and cause this damage?
No, I didn't.
What makes you think she did that, sir?
I was in the room when she did it. I watched her do it.
Show me how she did that. Describe to me how she did that.
She was going under the sink. She took the door and slammed it.
Yeah?
That's what she did. And
no,
that's
that doesn't happen as a result of slamming a door. No. What else?
The damage to the floor and the wall in the bathroom.
Let's take a look at that. Danielle refused to wipe up water after her showers. I had to do it for her. Water damage on the floor and wall. Looks like you didn't take really good care of his property.
There was a towel on the floor in the bathroom that I used every time I took a shower. There was also another female living in the house, and every time
Another tenant?
Yes.
Was the other tenant also using this bathroom?
Yes, she was.
Didn't have a different bathroom?
No.
Okay. Now, what else are you suing for? And let's make the other stuff fast, because I have a low tolerance level for nonsense.
Well, the entire time I was there, he pretty much made my life a living hell.
That's a good reason to move.
Yeah, with sexual harassment and...
Like what?
Like, we were watching that movie, Monsters Ball with Halle Berry. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but in that movie, she's naked. And he made the comment, oh, well, that's what your body looks like naked. I'm just like, okay, how would you know? And he's just like, well, I can kind of tell. We were sitting at dinner one night, and he mentioned how big my breasts were and what they looked like naked. I was on the phone with a guy one night. When I got off the phone, he's just like, oh, who is that? The only reason he'd be calling you is if he had sex with you. Use a different word. He told me that the only reason any guy would ever talk to me is if he had a sexual interest in me. One night I had a guy come over. He was coming over, he was going to pick me up, we were going to go out. The next morning he asked me, oh, so did you guys have sex? And it's just like little comments like that.
Did it bother you?
Oh, yeah.
Did he really irritate you?
Oh, yeah. And then
So you were planning on moving?
Yes.
Because he was acting like a jerk?
Yes.
He didn't touch you?
No.
Did he? He just made sexual innuendos. Like a jerk?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you met jerks like that before?
Yes.
It's not the last one you're going to meet.
I know. I know.
If he said it, and I don't know, Mr. Schaefer, I don't know if he said it, but if he said it, it's a jerk. You were going to move. He gave you a 30-day notice before you gave him notice. Goodbye. You get your security deposit back. Go and be happy. Anything else you want?
Well, I mean...
Anything else you want?
No.
Perfect. Now, what do you want?
First of all, I want her to pay for the damages to the house.
She's not paying for the damages to the house, sir.
Okay.
You had more than one tenant, and there is no way that I can tell which one of the two girls who showered got water on the wall.
Okay.
Next.
She moved her brother into my home, into her bedroom, and I told her that she wasn't allowed to sublease.
So?
So she was having her brother live there, and he was going to my neighbors, telling them that I was and slandering me.
What difference does it make with regard to this lawsuit if her brother was saying something? What does that have to do with her?
Because she brought him into my home.
Did you ever hear the expression, I am not my brother's keeper? That's from a very old book. Very old. Next.
She went to my tenant and was telling her things.
Where's your tenant?
She moved out with her.
Were you there when she made remarks to your tenant about you?
Yes.
Oh, good. What did you hear her say about you?
That I was making sexual remarks to her, which I wasn't. The only sexual remark that was actually said was when she was walking down the hallway. One day I asked her what was going on, and she said she came out of her bedroom saying that she was masturbating feverishly.
Oh my God.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I had no idea any of this was going on at all.
My mother was in tears. I was in tears.
I'm thinking my wife left me before I got married, but I don't know what's going on.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Danielle Yankowski says landlord Rick Schaefer owes for the return of her security deposit and for making inappropriate comments of a sexual nature.
Sir, I don't understand what you're suing her for.
Well, I lost a tenant because of her. She didn't know the tenant.
I have no idea whether you lost a tenant or not because of her. The tenant's not here. Even if it's true, the tenant wasn't happy, the tenant can leave. But you can't tell me the reason that the tenant moved because that's in somebody else's mind. I find that I cannot determine who caused the water splatter in the bathroom because you had more than one tenant using the bathroom. And her brother said things about you that were not nice. Is that right?
Yes.
So what do you want?
I didn't want her to bring anyone in the house in the first place.
So she did. So you evicted her, right?
Yes.
If you weren't unhappy with her, you wouldn't have given her a 30-day notice, right?
Right.
She was a good tenant and someone that you were satisfied with. Everything would have been cool, right?
Right.
So you did what you were supposed to do. Give her a 30-day notice and say, bye, return a security deposit, and you all go your separate ways. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $450. Your counterclaim is dismissed as nonsense. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was threatening me.
He figured that he wouldn't be able to sleep with me and, you know, decided that he would harass me.
Be aware of little girls.
Beware of creepy old men.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clanton versus Raduazo, step forward, please.
Kristen Clanton and her husband Mark are suing antique limo business owner Frank Raduazo for causing them to be late for their own wedding and for ruining her dress.
Mrs. Clanton, you retained the defendant's limousine company to provide transportation for you and your husband for your wedding, and claimed that because of problems that developed with the cars, you were late for your own wedding, your dress got ruined because the cars broke down. All in all, it was a terrible day, and you want some compensation. He says he provided the best service that he could for you under the circumstances, and there were problems with the cars. The problems were really your fault because you insisted upon using the antique cars rather than regular cars. Is that right?
That's true.
Okay. How did you find this company?
I actually had a bridal fair. They had given me a flyer.
Can I see the flyer, please?
Sure can.
Because a lot of this has to do with the fact that you and your husband selected antique cars to use to take you to your wedding. The defendant says that because of weather conditions that existed over the week or so prior to the wedding, he had suggested to you that it would not be a good idea to use these antique cars, but he would send other cars, and you insisted on using the antique cars. That's what he said.
Yes.
All right. When did the Clantons contact you about using your antique cars?
On May 20th in the year 2001.
And when was the wedding scheduled?
June 15th, 2002.
And when they contacted you, they told you that they wanted to use the antique cars?
That's correct.
And told them what the cost was?
Correct.
Did you tell them anything else?
The discussion at that time was basically the address, what's on the contract.
Can I see the contract, please?
When we originally...
Just a minute. So it's clear that they specified a Rolls-Royce with leather seats.
Correct.
And there was nothing in this contract that indicated that there was anything wrong with this car that prevented it from being used in inclement weather.
Other than the fact is if the question was if there were a problem with the vehicle,
yes,
would we have a backup type of vehicle under those conditions so that they wouldn't be without a car?
And what did you say?
And I told her, yes, that would be true.
What kind of backup vehicle did you have?
We have additional Rollses.
Good. Oh.
Plus limousines.
So you could have sent them, under the contract, another Rolls-Royce.
Which we did do.
Which also broke down.
Both cars did.
Both cars broke down.
Correct.
Okay. Why don't you tell me about the travails? You're at home waiting for the car to pick you up, and what happened?
I'm at home getting ready. I have the whole bridal party at the house. I get the phone call from Mr. Raduazo. Basically, he was calling me to tell me that the car that I rented with him was not going to run.
What did he say?
He basically just told me that it was raining out and that the car wasn't going to run well. I rented this car for the day of my wedding a year in advance. You know, this is part of a dream that I had. I wanted an old-fashioned car for the day of my wedding. And
so he called and told you the car was not going to run well.
Right.
What did you say?
I was basically in shock, to be honest with you. I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody was calling me. It was like 3 hours before I was going to get married. I thought it was going to be a joke.
So, what did you say?
Basically, we hung up. I mean, he told me that the car wasn't going to run well.
What did you say, Miss Clanton? I'm asking you, what did you say to him? You didn't just hang up. He says the car's not going to run well. You're home. You're going to say you're going to send another car. You say you better send that car anyway. What did you say to him?
I basically just told him to send a car to get me to my wedding.
So did he send a car?
Yes, he did.
What time is the car supposed to pick you up?
4:30.
What time did the car pick you up?
4:30.
What happened when the car picked you up?
The vehicle that showed up was not the vehicle that I rented. It was another old-fashioned car.
Was it a Rolls-Royce?
I believe so.
Old or new?
It was older. It wasn't freshly painted. It was disgusting.
What happened on the way to the church?
Well, we live probably about a mile from the highway. We barely even made it to the highway. The car stalled before we even got onto the on-ramp. My mother was in the front. I was in the back with my brother, and basically the car was stalled out. We finally got it started. I was in tears. I was very upset.
What time did you get there?
Definitely late. That car was backfiring, so finally I talked the driver into getting us a backup car. So finally, around the corner from the church, they had another car meet us, which I had to get out in the rain, get into the other vehicle, and we were only about maybe a couple blocks from the church, so we were late. The ceremony was at 5:30, and we were definitely at least 10 minutes late.
Now, from there, you were going to the reception.
Right.
Which car did you get into to go to the reception?
A second car showed up, still not the car that we booked.
But another Rolls-Royce?
Yes.
And what happened with that car?
We probably got almost halfway there. On the side of the highway, a major highway, we break down again. So we had to get out of the vehicle. We were on the side of the road in the pouring rain. I was getting mud splashed up on my gown.
Why did you have to get out?
We had to get out and try to get somebody to drive us.
Well, you didn't have to do that. You have a driver there for that. What?
The car itself, when it broke down on the side of the road, the photographer was behind us in a caravan. So I got out of the car and I flagged down the caravan. So I had to get her out of the car, get her in the caravan.
Okay, but she wasn't outside trying to flag down
the
car.
No, but getting her out of the car is where the dress started. I don't know how to hold the dress up. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to that.
You better figure it out.
You know, and then when we got to the church, I had no idea any of this was going on at all. And I'm thinking my wife left me before I got married, so I don't know what's going on. And the car shows up, and it's about 15 minutes later than we were supposed to start the wedding.
We're past the wedding. Get it together, Mr. Clanton. We're at the reception. You already got married. Now you're on your way from the church to the reception.
And we got stuck on the side of the road.
That's what we're up to.
Yep, and I had to get her out of the car.
And you gave me a very plausible explanation for the question that I asked. Don't volunteer anything else. Answer only questions posed.
Okay.
You won't get into any trouble that way. That's very good advice for a young married person. Don't volunteer any information. Do you understand?
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect. Mr. Radoazzo, sounds to me like you ought to get rid of your fleet of Rolls Royces, sir, and stop advertising them. They don't run.
Your Honor, the cars are 40 years old plus.
Problem is that you understand that some people really love the idea of getting married in one of these old cars. You have other cars in your fleet. I'm sure you have much newer limousines in your fleet. Fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
But when you advertise with the white Rolls Royce because that's sort of a dream that lots of young people have, and older people have when they get married, of being married and using one of these cars, elegant cars, to get them to and from. And what I'm telling you is that it sounds to me as if at least 3 cars in your fleet don't run if it's damp.
May I explain?
Yeah.
Okay. I started to call their home on the 13th of June.
That's a lie.
I spoke.
What did I tell you about volunteering? Don't you understand? Go ahead, sir.
I spoke to her father, I believe it was, and I explained that we were in conditions that just don't normally happen. We had 50-degree temperatures with rain, thunderstorms, fog. And I wanted to switch them to a limousine at that time. That was the 13th. I called again on the 14th and again tried to get them to go into a limousine. I called the morning of the wedding and the bride hung up on me and left me no alternative but to send the car.
You don't understand what I'm saying to you, Mr. Radoazzo. What I'm saying to you is you ought to get rid of this fleet of Rolls Royces that are 40 years old because, sir, they don't run well and you should stop advertising them. Now, if in the contract you said if you want Rolls Royces, you can only use them in good weather because in bad weather they don't run well, and you make them aware of that, well, then they've been forewarned.
Well, they asked me at the time that we went into the agreement, what would happen if you had a problem with this car? And I explained to them.
Yeah, that's right. If you had a problem with that car, then you send another Rolls Royce. That's what the agreement was. That's not your problem, Mr. Radoazzo. Your problem is you had information that your customer didn't have. And the information that you had at the time you entered into this contract was that your fleet of Rolls Royces do not run well in certain kinds of weather. And that information you had to share with them because you knew that there was an inherent defect in the product that you were offering to them, and that inherent defect was that it doesn't go in the rain. Then they're aware of it. And then they could have made a choice. They're not aware of it. And so you are responsible. You're not responsible for everything that they think you're responsible for ruining their day. But you are responsible for giving them back their money. They didn't get what they bargained for. Let me see pictures of your wedding dress.
I only have a picture of us getting out of the minivan on the side of the highway. I didn't know that we were going to run into this problem, so somebody had a job to take my gown to the cleaner. So I do have the cleaner's bill and also a note from the cleaner stating that he couldn't get the...
Is this getting you out of the photographer's van?
Yes.
I don't see any stains on the dress. If your wedding dress is all covered with mud, then you must have a picture from your wedding showing me that the wedding dress, you say in your complaint, is covered with mud. I don't see it in this picture. Mr. Radoazzo, stop advertising these cars, or at least modify your contract to provide that these cars do not run in the rain, they do not run in the damp, they do not run in the wet. And if somebody wishes to rent them on that basis, with the understanding that unless the weather is crystal clear and perfect, they're not going to run, they should have a substitute car, I think you're going to be faced with these lawsuits all the time. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $395. That's
I feel bad that the day was not what it was supposed to be.
I probably would have never rented the vehicle if this was going to be a problem.
Hopefully in the future we'll do a better job.
False police reports and harassment.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2068, Automatis versus Albrecht.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Albrecht, I'm going to start with you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You are the current live-in boyfriend of the plaintiff's ex-wife?
Soon to be.
Of the plaintiff's wife.
Correct.
Mr. Adamus's complaint is that as a result of you making a call to the police, he was defamed when you said that he was trespassing. It was a false call to the police, and he wants to be compensated to the tune of $2,500. That's what the case is about. So in order to make this whole thing in context that I understand, how long have you been living with Mrs. Adamus?
Since June of 21.
How long do you know her?
Since January of 21.
Have you ever been married?
Yes, I have.
When and for how long?
Previously to April of this year, I was married for 15 years.
So you were married when you moved in with Mrs. Adamus?
Yeah.
Legally?
Legally.
Did you own your own home?
I did.
Does he live in the house?
Not at this time.
Did he ever?
Yes, he did.
And you didn't like it?
No, I did not.
So I want you to understand that there is maybe a reason why the plaintiff resents you living in a house that he owns with his still wife, and you're living there. Do you understand?
I do.
Because you sort of have the same situation. You're kindred spirits. Actually, you're kindred spirits.
Except my 15-year-old son also lives with this young man.
So who cares?
Oh.
Well, that's all right. But you understand why he might be annoyed.
I do, but...
Okay. So now, understanding all that, I want you to tell me, because I'm not totally sympathetic with you, sir, because if you and your wife are divorcing, you're entitled to move on with your life, and so is she entitled to move on.
March of 2021.
And who do you live with?
I currently live with my...
No. Who do you live with is the question.
My older son.
And how old is he?
19.
And how many bedrooms are in the condo?
2.
And what about you? Have a girlfriend?
Yes, I do.
Ever stay over?
My house? No.
Do you ever stay at her house?
No.
Does she live with her children?
Yes.
And is she divorced?
Yes.
And she stayed in the house?
Yes.
You see how all these things go? It's just as the world turns. It's just what happens. I've been there. Understand it all. Can either make it hard or difficult. Who pays the mortgage on the house?
Paid off.
Okay. So you have one teenage child, your wife has the other.
Yes.
And how close is the judgment to divorce to being finalized?
Not close.
Not close. Is that for financial reasons or custody reasons?
Financial.
Had to do with the house?
Yes.
Okay. How much is the house? I'm just fleshing this out.
Speculating.
Only because I'm a little bit of a yenta. Behind this purple robe is a little bit of a...
You know, with the housing market being a CPA, you know, it's...
He's looking that up. Tell me when you and your wife purchased it.
2006. August of 2006.
And during the course of the marriage, were you employed all the time?
100%.
And what about your wife?
100%.
So you were both employed and both contributed to the house. Fair statement?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
It's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. The estimate is $552,000.
And just for my own curiosity, what's the rub about the house?
The rub
Come on, it's simple.
The rub about the house is she's now went in and spent an ungodly amount of money on fixer-upper after I moved out and went into massive amount of debt. The house was fully paid off, and she's now in massive debt. She's put in fixer-upper.
No, don't look at her.
Okay, that's
look
what
at me.
Okay.
So she's fixed up the house after you moved out.
Correct.
And?
It's not a problem.
Just a second. So what's the problem?
There is no problem with the house, meaning that...
$260,000.
Correct.
Okay? It would seem to me that would be easy.
I think so.
Okay. Now that I've satisfied the yenta in me, I'm getting back to the case. All right. He called the police. This incident, according to what I read, Mr. Adamas, happened on November 5th?
Correct.
You went to the house to pick up your son?
Correct.
Okay. Was that a meeting that had been arranged before?
I have visitation every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks when?
Every other weekend.
Well, so was this a weekend?
Yes, that was one where I was going to go pick him up.
Okay. Had you spoken to him?
Yes.
And so he was expecting you to come at a certain time?
Absolutely.
What time?
Approximately there, we'd arranged about 7:15, that 7:15, 7:30 that night.
Okay. And you had visitation fixed by the court, and you had been enjoying that with your son for a period of time?
Correct.
Okay. What happened when you got there at 7:15?
Well, on that particular visit, my wife had taken his key to the house. And I had...
No. I told you, don't look at her.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, okay.
I'm getting sympathetic with her. I just want you to know that.
Okay.
7:15, you went to pick up your son, and you were 15.
Yes.
And?
So at that particular time, I
don't look down.
Okay, look at me. I went into the house. I'd never been in that house since I moved out, and so I wanted...
How did you get into the house?
The door was open.
Okay, the door isn't wide open. You mean it was unlocked?
Unlocked.
Okay, so let's not say the door was open.
Okay,
the door was unlocked.
Correct.
Door was unlocked. You don't live there anymore. You live in a condo.
Correct.
Okay, did you ring the bell?
No.
Knock at the door?
Yes.
Nobody there's a bell.
Answered.
There's a bell.
There was a bell.
There's a bell.
Yes.
Didn't ring the bell. Open the door. Now, open the door.
Yes.
Your house, I own half of it. I'm going to ask my wife a question.
Yes.
Keep going.
Walked into the house. At that particular time, she is sitting there with my son. At that particular time, I asked her to get a copy of the key, and we became into an argument. She didn't want me to have a copy of the key. And I tried to explain to her, without a copy of the key, he can't get in this time. He comes storming down the stairs. Mr. Albrecht is then... I think Mr. Albrecht's coming to beat me up. He is storming down the stairs. I have since learned that Mr. Albrecht...
Just stop.
Okay.
Just pay careful attention to me. So far, you're in the wrong.
Okay.
Let me just tell you.
Okay.
So far, from a legal perspective...
Right.
And a common sense perspective...
Okay.
You're in the wrong. I'll explain why in a second.
So I walk into that house.
We got past that.
Okay.
We got past that. So now you want a copy of the key... And she says no. I don't care if you want to give it to your parakeet.
Okay.
You're not entitled to a copy of the key.
Okay.
Let's start right there.
Okay.
And let's start with my first point is if you're going there to pick up your son for a prearranged visit.
Yes.
You don't walk into the house. You have a 15-year-old son. A 15-year-old son has a phone.
I tried to call him, yes.
Oh, you tried to call him. What happened?
He said he was there, that he said...
Be very careful what you say to me.
Okay,
You called your son.
And I called my son, be ready to go. He said, okay, I'm ready to go.
That was at about 7 o'clock.
Yes, approximately.
What do you mean, yes, approximately?
Yeah, I was probably on my way to pick him up. And so when I come up there, I call him on the phone.
Okay, he's ready to go.
Yes, at that time she had changed the lock because the door was open. I had not been
No. Listen to me. You went there because... Mr. Adonis, you have to be a two-process thinker, sir, before you give me a lot of baloney. You knew that your old key didn't open the house. Otherwise, you would have said, your mother took away your key. I'll make you another key from my copy.
True.
True. Of course it's true. So, you know.
And later today.
I wasn't allowed to live with my dad and stepmom because they moved into a 55 and over neighborhood.
When? If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
Frank Automitis claims his wife's boyfriend, Willie Albrecht, wrongfully called the police while visiting his own house.
Didn't need a copy to make because you would have had one.
Okay.
So you knew that your old key didn't open the house. Otherwise, you would have said, your mother took away your key. I'll make you another key from my copy.
True.
True. Of course it's true. So, you know, so he called the police and he said you were trespassing.
No, he didn't say that at all.
What did he say?
He said he told me I was trespassing. Then he called on the phone, and when he's on the phone with the police department, he is telling them that I am now committing domestic violence. Now, That is a very serious charge. I mean, okay, we can debate about my access to the house, but when you call the police and say that I'm committing domestic violence, which is a crime in the state of California, that's a game changer. So
I want to ask you a question, Mr. Adonis. When you walked into the house and you saw your wife and your son, I want to know, when you walked in uninvited,
true,
your first words were, "I want a copy of the key." That's what you said. You said, "I want a copy of the key." Would you read that back to me, please, Whitney?
I'll go with that.
At that particular time, I asked her to get a copy of the key, and we became into an argument.
So now you're in an argument, and you're a trespasser.
Absolutely correct, as she usually is. I had no idea this was going to blow up into World War III.
Because he's all about winning. He didn't get his way. He was throwing a temper tantrum.
I feel that he's just trying to do whatever he can to keep me out of the picture.
He lives by his own rules.
He just simply wants me out of the way so he could take over.
Let the courts decide.
It's always so unfortunate when people divorce. I mean, the story is this. I could have written the script without even listening to the people. But they have two teenage boys, 15, 19 years old. One's chosen to live with the father. One's chosen to live with the mother. Clearly, the son said to him, "Mom took away my key." Mm-hmm. She clearly took away his key for a reason. Mm-hmm. I didn't even want to get into what the reason was, but clearly she took away the key for a reason. Otherwise, she doesn't look like an unreasonable person. Her boyfriend doesn't look like an unreasonable guy. And he was flexing his muscles. Mm-hmm. And the fight is over the house, because I gather that's the only real asset they have. Yeah. Anyway, unfortunate when people don't realize that they... Seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2086, Renner versus Velasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Renner, you run a dance studio.
I do.
How long have you had it?
30 years.
And what age children do you teach?
We have a Mommy and Me class, which starts at 18 months, and our oldest student is 19 years old.
And Miss Velasquez has a daughter. Mm-hmm. And she was at your school during what period of time?
She started in June of 2020, and she quit in June of this year.
Your lawsuit is simple. You claim that Miss Velasquez owes you money for her daughter's dance lessons.
Yes.
The defendant actually disavows owing you any money. She said that you actually behaved in a mean-spirited way in not allowing her daughter to finish her recital. So I'm trying to think back to my days when I was 6 and 7. And if I remember correctly, the name of the school that I went to, and I know that this is not something that everybody is breathless to hear about, but I haven't had one of these cases. And I was thinking back to Miss Nottage, who had a dancing school in her home on Parkside Avenue. Any of them, none of them were my strong suit. Father always said that I should sue the city because they built the sidewalk too close to my behind because my legs are short. So being a ballerina was really not physically possible for me, but in my mind, I thought I was a ballerina. Anyway, as do most little girls, I assume. So you worked during the year, and at the end of the year of your dance class, I remember you gave a recital. Everybody got all excited and dressed for the recital. I assume that's what happens in your class. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a yes.
Yes.
Did you have a contract with Miss Velasquez?
I have a registration form which acknowledges receipt of studio policies.
Well, policies is not a contract, but I'll take a look at it anyway. The question is, do you have a signed contract with her?
No.
Okay. According to these policies, which are not a written contract because she has not signed this document in particular, you say you acknowledge receipt of it. What it mostly is tell them what the instructions are and give you a release of liability. It does indicate here that full tuition is due on the first class of each month. And how much was the tuition for Miss Velasquez's daughter?
From January through June, it was $170 a month. And then from September through December, it was $165 a month.
Okay, so around $170 a month. And I assume she was current on her tuition in 2020. And in 2020, did Miss Velasquez make her payments on the first of each month?
Well, I can't say exactly on the first, but yes, it was always current, which is
That's
why...
not what I asked you. Was it made pursuant to your policies? here on the first of each month?
I don't know. I don't remember specifically.
What about in 2021? Were her payments made on the first of each?
Starting in December, she asked me if she could make small payments, increments throughout the month because she was a single mother and wasn't able to make the full payment on the first.
So you said yes, that she could make payments incrementally. Mm-hmm. And do you have that same arrangement with some other parents?
I do.
How many other parents do you have that arrangement with?
Well, anybody who asks in...
How many? You run the school.
5.
How many students do you have?
5.
Okay. So you have that arrangement with this mother plus 5? Mm-hmm. And that is inconsistent with your policies.
Yes.
That would be a yes. Now, tell me what happened, Ms. Velasquez, that caused you to fall behind in your payments. You acknowledge you fell behind in your payments.
Yes, I do.
When did you fall behind in your payments?
I asked Ms. Renner if I could start making payments in September of 2021, which I have written, just continued to pay as I could with being a single mom.
Well, that's not a reason to not pay her, being a single mom as you could. You understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm sure you're doing the best you can. You're trying to give your little girl, how old is she?
9.
9. Trying to give her the best possible experience. It's all wonderful, but this is her business. And if you owe her money, then you owe her money. Mm-hmm. Since the policies are honored and sometimes not, there is one part of your policy, even though that this is the contract that I actually find ridiculous, because in your lawsuit, you claim you're owed $946 and $7,169.76 interest. That's not happening. And it's not happening. You gave me an easy out because you really don't enforce your own policies.
I try to be kind to people who
and I
need
try
help.
to be kind too. Being kind is not suing somebody for $900 and suing them for $9,000. That's not being kind, because there's no question that you agree that you owe her some money.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's an unconscionable includes interest. I find that ridiculous. How many students were in Ms. Velasquez's class?
Approximately 18.
When you say approximately 18, the number varied based on what?
Well, my memory, it was either 18 or 19 children. I don't remember how many. That's a very large class.
Are you the sole teacher?
Well, I do the ballet, and I have a teacher who teaches the jazz class.
Your daughter takes ballet or jazz, or both?
Yeah.
Your daughter stopped going to school when?
May 17th.
Tell me the circumstances.
That was when I got a ledger from the studio that said that I owed $965. And my math was thinking I was closer to like $360. So I kept messaging and asking where the confusion was. And I didn't get a response until May 27th.
That said what?
That said I owed $1,300.
Sure. And I'd like to see your ledger. So far, I have, according to you, what you owe, because you did a breakdown of what you owe. It is your claim that you owe $846, correct?
Yep.
And she says you owe $946. That's without the interest and the late fees.
Yeah.
So you are actually, based upon raw numbers, $100 apart.
I have an email from her stating that she owes $947.
I'd like to see it, please.
And later today.
Do you keep a certain amount of clothes at Miss Barnes' apartment?
No, Your Honor, they're usually in my truck.
So you stay with your mom?
Yeah, that's my primary residence. Like, it's maybe two days out of a week.
Mr. White, this is what we're getting. You see where we're starting to smile?
Jennifer Renner claims her client, Danny Velasquez, owes for dance class fees.
Okay, so in this email, you acknowledge owing $586 and then $360 for team. What is seems to acknowledge that you owed her $947.
Yeah, so the team portion was $361, which is what I thought was owed.
No, you said team, and your regular tuition said that I owed $1,301 when I only owed $586. So $586 and $361 and $947.
You're correct. I just couldn't get any accurate numbers.
I'm taking your numbers that you acknowledge.
Right. First she said it was $1,647 I owed, then she said $1,400.
Right now I have, she says amount owed $946. You said it was $947. So let's say it's $947. And that's without late fees and without interest. So you would consider that a fair number.
Yeah.
And Ms. Rayner, you would consider that a fair number?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff with.
She was not paying.
I had to go in and be the one that broke her heart.
She argued with every statement we sent her.
We've already found a new studio, and it's amazing.
Pay your bills.
It's a big blessing in disguise that my daughter's not with Jenny anymore.
I'm sure you were a great dancer back in your day. Maybe ballet now isn't for you, but I'm sure you were the cutest one in the class. But I do think it was unconscionable for the owner of the dance studio to agree that the mother only owed around $900, and she wanted to have this court pay her almost $9,000 in late fees and interest. I mean, I think just unconscionable.
It was a good shot. You know, usually when you do a contract, a formal contract, contracts usually say if any part of this contract is found to be either unconscionable or illegal, the remainder of the contract remains in full force and effect. Usually you have something that says that. Well, this was just an acceptance of the school policy, but the school policy clearly was flexible.
It was, and as soon as she said that, I was hoping that she would have drawn up for those 5 or 6 parents that were on a different payment agreement. Because as you said, well, if you're flexible on this point and that point, why are you not flexible on the interest that you
interest point,
exactly,
which sounded unconscionable.
It did.
Anyway, I really, Sarah, remember those dance classes and crossing Parkside Avenue to go to Miss Nottage's studio. The thing that I remember most about it was the acrobatics class. I swear they had something strung up that looked like a torture chamber. It was strung up from the ceilings and you were put in a harness. You started from one end of the room, and when you got to the minute, she pulled you up on a pulley and you were supposed to do a somersault. And I remember I couldn't get off the ground. My little chubby legs were
flailing,
and I couldn't get my behind over the rest of my body.
Listen, I'm not a dancer either.
And then I started thinking about law school.
Yeah, I think that.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2076, Miller versus Pena.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Pena, is that your son?
Yes, it is.
The one who was driving the car?
Yes.
Okay, good. You stand up next to your father. Mr. Miller, is your claim that the defendant's son hit your car that was parked in a parking lot?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it was parked in the parking lot of a high school?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you work in that high school?
Yes.
As what?
I'm a teacher.
What do you teach?
I teach what's called on-site continuation. It's a continuation classroom for 10th through 12th grade students.
Do you go to that school?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. On what date did you park your car when you allege it was hit?
I was on March 8th, Your Honor.
You were in school that day?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, you should know that in reviewing this case, Mr. Miller, because he was not there when his car was hit.
Correct.
Correct? And so he alleges that it was you who hit his car and then left the scene. You're going to tell you that Mr. Miller has a video that he says was taken by school cameras that were zoned onto the parking lot that demonstrates that you actually did hit his car and leave. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
So now we're going to go back to March 8th, and you're going to tell me what happened with Mr. Miller's car.
So I drive myself to school every day, or at the time I was driving myself to school because that was my only way of getting to school.
Did you have a driver's license?
At the time, no, I did not have a driver's
So you were driving a car without a driver's license?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what kind of a car were you driving?
It was a 1991 Camaro.
Where did you get the car from?
Me and my dad had gone off the street. It was a project car.
How old are you? You didn't pass it.
No.
Did you take the written test?
No.
What did you take in February?
The practical test.
Just the practical test, the driving test?
Yes.
And you failed that?
Yes.
So despite the fact that you failed that, you drove the car, and your father knew that you were driving the car without a license? That's a yes or a no?
Yes.
Was there insurance on this car, Mr. Pena?
No, there wasn't.
So no insurance, no license. So far, not good parenting. You understand that, Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so you drove yourself to school and?
There's a parking lot that all the students, teachers, anyone who goes to school, really, they can park
Yes, nobody suggests you were trespassing in a place you weren't supposed to be.
Yeah, so every morning I would park in...
Not everyone, look at me. That day, Mr. Miller's car.
Yes, Your Honor. That day, March 8th, I came to school as usual, and I parked in my area, and then one of the on-school deputies that the school has, he hit his car.
So what you're telling me is that you did not hit Mr. Miller's car. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
What car were you driving that day?
1991 Camaro.
What color is it?
Red.
How long have you been going to that school?
It's my 4th year going.
How many other people drive a 1991 Camaro? Red. Nobody.
Nobody.
And so I'm going to watch this video. Sarah, do we have the video?
I have it. So, there. Wait, you'll see it.
Okay. You had a truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so there's no question you hit the truck. Do you want me to show you the video?
No, Your Honor.
Well, if you don't want to see the video, that's because you told me a lie. We're pulling in. Have they shown you the video, Mr. Pena?
They show me a different version of that video.
Well, I've just seen the version that I saw. Got it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Saw the truck move, did you?
Yes, it did.
When you were pulling in next to it?
Yes, I was.
When you were pulling in next to it? So that didn't happen because there was an earthquake. That happened because you hit the truck.
Yes, Your Honor.
Fine. Now we understand each other, Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Great. That's a yes. Okay. Can I see pictures of your truck, please, and the estimate to repair it?
Yes, Your Honor. Pictures. Here's the estimate.
Have you seen the photographs?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Totally consistent, right? Okay. Mr. Miller, you're from California?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you regularly teach today?
Yes.
So you had to take a day off?
Yes, I have a substitute today. Stated because I have sick days or personal necessity days.
The reason I'm asking you these questions, Mr. Miller, because it's no question that you are entitled to have your car fixed. But that's, to me, even though that's all you're requesting, I think the fact that Mr. Pena allowed his son to drive a car without insurance and without a license, not only without a license, but knowing that his son took a driving test the month before and failed it, which means that he was not a good driver. Not a good enough driver to get a driver's license. And I have a lot of people in my family that don't drive well, that I don't like to be in the car with. But they all have driver's licenses because they managed to pass a driving test. So I know that you are only requesting the $1,524. I'm sorry, my son hit your car. Because either his son lied to him.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Either his son lied to him, or his son told him the truth, but he lied to me. And he's the grown-up. He set an example for his son that said it's okay to break the law. Not only for you, because you take the car to school. Take the car to school, even though you failed. Take the car to school. It has no insurance. If you hit somebody in that car and you seriously injure them, that car has no insurance. Car has no insurance. He has nothing to lose. Car has no insurance, but the person who he hit, person whose property he may have destroyed, they have no recourse. You understand, sir? That's a bad parental example. You want to say something to me or not?
Yes, I do.
I don't care that you didn't like it. That's not, as a parent, the lesson you should be teaching. And whether or not you like the way the sheriff spoke to him, that is totally irrelevant to me.
Later.
I paid as much as I could supporting him. I wasn't getting paid.
Dean Miller claimed
was how he got approached.
I don't care whether you like it or not.
That's what I do.
I don't care whether you like it or not. Did your son come home from school that day and say, I hit somebody's car?
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Nowhere.
And just a second. And when you asked him whether he hit somebody's car, what did he tell you? Just be careful.
He said, I think. He felt intimidated
just a second.
by
I think.
The sheriff and him.
I don't care that you didn't like it. That's not, as a parent, that's not, as a parent, the lesson you should be teaching. First of all, you allowed your son to violate the law. You allowed it. And then, I mean, I would certainly know whether I caused that much damage. He knew. The sheriff spoke to him. That is totally irrelevant to me. That shouldn't be the takeaway from this. The takeaway from this is you're supposed to follow the rules. The rules are meant for everybody, and that includes you and your kid. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
Police officer came behind me when I parked and accusing me that I'd hit someone.
The school deputy saw the video, knew the car, so he approached the student.
The person who I supposedly hit came out with a megaphone yelling at me.
There is no megaphone, so I don't know where that came from.
Telling me that I'd hit him. So I was kind of like freaking out. I didn't really know what to think.
If it happened to me, he could hit someone else. And
I didn't know I hit your car. Like, did I hit your car? Like, I didn't even know what to think. I could have sworn I did not.
This was fortunate that it was just a parked car in a parking lot.
It is time to get his license, yes, that's correct.
It is time to get the car fixed and just get some closure on this.
In our family, we would call that contact a love tap. And as someone who has had a few, just a light little love tap. Yes, so I just thought it was outrageous that the defendants, father and son, they knew that there was a video and still took the position of, nope.
Well, his father's position was, I didn't like the way they spoke to my son, and therefore, I'm not responsible. They shouldn't have spoken to him. I mean, he's 17 years old, but he looks like a man. He's taller than his father, you know.
You have to take responsibility.
But you have to take responsibility and not drive a car, especially. You failed a driving test. The most basic thing. I mean, you know, we have
I will
people...
say, I did pass on the first try, so...
Yes, but we have people in our family who actually did not.
Okay, yes.
And they didn't drive... And they didn't drive a car. Yeah. Until they could pass a driving test.
And their parents were the first ones to say, no shot until you pass that test.
Absolutely.
So parents...
For money she received during their relationship.
Mr. McPherson.
Yes.
How old are you, sir?
40.
What kind of work do you do?
Home care aid.
Independent, or do you work for a company?
Home care aid agency.
For an agency?
Yes.
How long have you been working for them?
About a year now, but I've been doing home care for about 3 years.
Prior to working for them the past year, and you're still working for them, is that right? Was there a period of time when you were unemployed?
Not more than maybe 3 weeks, but since I know Ms. Hall...
No, I don't want to know about Ms. Hall.
No, I'm telling you my employments, that since I've lived in her residence, I've always worked. I worked at the zoo, Census Bureau.
Don't try to think ahead of me.
Okay.
There was a period of time in 2020, according to you, that you became homeless and were living in a shelter.
Yeah,
and that was in what month in 2020?
In June. So if I can explain the situation. I was living in a house that a slumlord wasn't doing the repairs. So I ended up forcing his hand, him selling the property, and the new landlord and my...
Could you look at me when you're talking?
I'm sorry. The new landlord and my other ex,
I'm asking you...
I'm just pointing in general. I'm not pointing at her.
You actually pointed
to
her. When you were in the shelter, were you employed?
Yes, for the Census Bureau, doing the census. I was actually out on the field knocking on doors. I was an enumerator.
So you were not working in home health care, you were a census taker?
At that time, yes.
And did you have a child living with you?
Yes, well, not in the shelter, no. I could not have my daughter in the shelter.
How old is your daughter?
10.
And where is her mother?
She's deceased.
Where was your daughter living when you were in the shelter?
With my mother.
Is she living with you now?
She's been with me since June.
In a new apartment?
Yes, I moved in August 1st.
She goes to school from your apartment?
Yes.
Okay. In 2020, you became acquainted with Miss Hall, and there came a time shortly thereafter, uncross your arms, and they...
August of 2022.
And in what month and year did you regain custody of your daughter?
June of 2022. So
there was a period of 2 months when you and your daughter lived in Miss Hall's home.
You could say that, but...
Well, I'm saying that because I just asked you a question about timeline.
No, because me and Ms. Hall was going through our dispute about this money, my daughter was staying with my grandma. I only brought my daughter there on certain occasions.
When I say you regained custody of your daughter, was that a court order?
Yes, I have it right here.
Just a second. Was the child removed by court order from your custody?
It was removed because the house...
Don't tell me because.
Yes,
it was yes.
Yes.
I have lots of things to do today.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Child was removed from your custody.
Because I didn't have nowhere to live at the time.
Was the child removed from your custody before you moved into the shelter?
She was removed because I was in the shelter.
Did you take her to the shelter?
No, I was not allowed to because there's no men.
So at that time,
female
did she go and live with your mother?
Of course.
Was that by court order?
No, it was, I
brought her to your mother?
Yes.
May I see the court order?
No, that court order
Thank
is
you.
the current.
Shh. Okay, so the child was placed with the Commissioner of Social Services in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And the child was placed in kinship foster care, which is a program that I am very familiar with the child's paternal grandmothers. So in June of this year, the child was returned to your custody. At some point in August of this year is when you and the defendants separated and you left the house. This is your claim. Your claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. What kind of gambling thing? I don't want to go back to the year, Gimel, sir. All I want you to do is tell me how much rent you were paying her.
To be honest, I had to...
I don't know. I want you to be dishonest with me. The claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. What kind of gambling thing? I want you to look at me when you talk, not at the papers.
No, I was going to...
In what kind of gambling thing did you win money?
I betted on 25 games.
What 25 games?
NBA, college, hockey.
Okay, and you bet where?
On FanDuel. It's an app called FanDuel.
Okay, and you won?
Yes.
I don't understand the whole thing. I don't want to learn the whole thing. I don't care about the whole thing. I just want you to tell me how much you won.
Before taxes or after?
Both.
Okay, $36,742, and after taxes, $26,889.
On what date?
So I won the bet on the 28th. It came into my account.
28th of what?
January.
Of what year?
This year.
And you had been living with Miss Hall for 2 years?
Prior, yes.
Okay, and you were working according to you all of that time?
Yes.
Okay, good. Were you paying any rent to Miss Hall?
I have receipts.
Yes, I want to see those. How much rent were you paying?
So when I met Miss Hall...
I don't want to go back to the year, Gimel, sir. All I want you to do is tell me how much rent you were paying her. Her rent was $425?
No, it's $850. I had to split it. We're paying half and half.
Miss Hall?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I do customer service.
And who else lives in the apartment with you?
My children.
How old are they?
14 and 13.
How large is the apartment?
It's a 2-bedroom.
And the total rent is $850?
Yes, ma'am.
There's no subsidy involved?
No subsidy at all.
Okay. And you have a lease?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you charge, if anything, Mr. McPherson as rent?
$425.
Well, that doesn't quite sound fair, does it? Did she make a figure with you of $425?
I paid more than that. I paid $425. That's half of the rent. I paid half of the electric and half of the internet bill.
There are 4 people in the house?
Yes.
Right? Why is
Well,
he paying
we're
for
only
Why was he paying for half the rent?
Oh, my children don't work, and his child didn't work either.
His child wasn't with you?
The child came with us in June, but she had visited.
There came a point, Miss Hall, when Mr. McPherson gave you $6,000 in cash.
No, not in cash.
Check.
No. Both of them was wired. One was directly wired into our Bank of America account.
What? Just a second. When?
The first transaction was on January 31st. The second transaction...
January 31st of?
This year. And the second transaction was the next day, February 1st. $12,000 total.
Do you acknowledge, Miss Hall, receiving $12,000 in your account from Mr. McPherson, or do I have to look at his records?
I do not acknowledge. He gave me $6,000 and $4,500.
$6,000 and $4,500, Mr. McPherson. Does that sound right?
No, it's not right, and I'm going to show you.
Let me see your bank record.
All right. Hey, sir.
Let us assume that it's $6,000 and $4,500 that he gave you in this year, 2022.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Let us assume for the moment that you're correct, because you're suing for $6,000.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because the first initial $6,000 was 8 months' rent. That I'm not.
Let us assume that you are correct, that he gave you $6,000 and $4,500. I'm taking you at face value. Different amounts of money.
Yes.
There's a $6,000 and a $4,500.
$4,500 was for me to pay my car note off. And
hey, just a second.
Go ahead.
Why would he pay your car note off?
He said he wanted to.
Oh, no. That's ridiculous. Miss Hall, let me just check.
Can I say something?
No.
He even wrote that on there for your car note.
No, you said in January he won a bet and cashed it out. A few days later, he gave me money via Cash App to catch up on his rent and as a thank you for helping him out. I don't see anything here about gift for a car note in your answer.
So he gave me the money for the car note, and as far as the Cash App money, he gave me money lots of times. So yes.
No, I'm talking about the $6,000, madam.
Yes.
Let us assume he gave you $4,500 to pay off your car note. That's what you said.
Correct.
What's the $6,000 for?
The $6,000 was for us to move.
For who to move?
Me and...
Yeah, February 3rd, he gave you $6,000. This just says he gave it to you.
Yes.
And?
And he told me to hold it so we can move.
Well, you didn't move.
No,
you didn't. Shh. He told you to hold it for him so that you could all move.
No.
So who could move?
So me and him and our children could move.
Well, that's what I just said.
I apologize.
So that we could move.
Correct.
But you didn't move together.
Correct.
So you have to give him his money back. That's simple. Just a second. That's simple. If you say he gave you the money so that the two of you could move and that event never took place, but he in fact moved out, you owe him $6,000.
But then he agreed.
Just a second. That's an easy. Okay. Do I have to deal with anything else? Money for lost wages, rent, utilities? Forget it. He paid all of that with the $4,500 when he paid off your car note. Come on, let's get it together. Lost wages. What are the lost wages for?
But then I had to take off from work because of the PFA, and I had to take off from work to go file out the court and things like that. But in the midst of him saying the $6,000, he didn't pay rent. He didn't, and I don't think I owe him the money.
That's what women do.
Because he gave me a gift and he didn't pay rent.
I also spent $2,000 on her in gifts.
What's done is done.
I'm taking a break from women for quite some time now.
So I'm glad that the plaintiff's daughter didn't have to go into the larger foster care system and was able to stay with plaintiff's mother. But I was curious that if this was a temporary slip up and he wasn't going to be permanently without housing, why wouldn't he go with his daughter to his mother's house? I was surprised you didn't ask him that question.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. That's a curious question.
To me, it just seemed like it might have been a better situation to crash at your mom's house with your daughter.
With
for
your
a while,
daughter.
But
I'm not sure whether I have that whole story, because they continued the child in care for a period of time, at least for almost 2 years, because he didn't have custody of her while he was living with the defendant.
Well, one easy part of the case was that he was owed his $6,000 back. That's all we had to deal with.
Yeah, that was
car damages and an assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2056, Garrett versus Codio scenario.
Thank you. Miss Garrett, this gentleman, Michael Codia, is that
correct?
Codia?
Yes.
You and Mr. Codia have been lifelong friends, according to what I read in the complaint. Lifelong, you're both very young. How do you know him?
Well, we used to ride bikes together. His mom used to also braid my hair when I was a child every Sunday.
But you and Mr. Codia were never involved in any relationship other than just friendship?
No.
And Mr. Codia, Miss Serrano is currently your girlfriend?
Correct. Yes, yeah.
She had been your girlfriend and been living with you for a while, and you have a child together?
Yes, correct. Well, she's currently pregnant. We're expecting, yeah, they're expecting.
Great. You had a fight?
Yes.
With Miss Serrano. And that was around June of this year?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it was a substantial enough fight that Miss Serrano left the home. And she left the home with your child. And how old is your child?
As I was saying, we are expecting.
So you don't have a child together?
She's 6 months pregnant, though, currently.
Okay. So you're just living, and she left?
Correct.
At about the same time, Miss Garrett, your friend, needed a place to stay.
I wouldn't say needed a place to stay, but...
What would you say?
It was more like, I kind of had a clue, like she had a place to stay, but it was just one of those situations.
No, look over here. Look over here. Okay.
Sorry.
Now, Mr. Codia, I want you to understand there are very few stories that are new under the sun. I want you to really understand that. I have children. I have grown grandchildren, boys and girls. I've seen all the movies that I want to see about romance and guys. So your girlfriend leaves you.
Yeah.
Yes. And would it be fair to say that you invite Miss Garrett? Had you in another apartment?
No.
So the answer is You had never invited your friend to come and stay with you before.
No.
Interesting. So on June 27th, she left. On what date did you invite Miss Garrett to come and stay in your apartment?
June 16th.
June 16th?
Yes.
So 11 days before Miss Serrano left?
Miss Serrano left about a week prior to her coming.
What date did you leave, Miss Serrano? Do you recall?
I don't recall. I recall it was the end of or mid-June of this year, I would say. I had personal things going on, so I really wasn't, Now,
Miss Serrano, I'm going to ask you why you left.
We had a falling out. Me and Michael had a falling out.
Yes. What did you and Michael have a falling out about?
Well, at the time, my mother was in the hospital, so that it was a disagreement surrounding having to move back home and take care of her in the household.
And
that was pretty much it.
Well, what did he say? He said he didn't want you to, and you...
Yeah, he pretty much, long story short, didn't want me to move back to my mother's house, so that caused,
Okay, so he wanted you to stay?
Yes. Yes, he wanted me to stay, but,
He wanted you to stay. Now, did you know that the two of you were expecting at that time in June?
Yes.
So he knew that you were expecting a baby, that you wanted to go back to your mother's house because she was ill and you wanted to help take care of her. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And despite the fact that he said don't go, you left?
Yes, ma'am.
And you went home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it would be fair to say that he was annoyed?
Yes.
Oh, I'm getting this whole picture now. It's so easy. Okay. And about a week later, he invites this attractive young lady who's been a friend of his for a long time, a non-romantic friend, but you know that was a sort of a nasty thing to do.
Oh, no, I'm fully aware. Yes,
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want you to know what you're sort of dealing with.
Yes, I'm fully aware of what I'm dealing with. Thank you, though. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, so, Mr. Codia, in order to sort of get even a little bit, you invite Miss Garrett to come and move in, no rent or anything, because you didn't have an agreement to pay rent. You weren't going to pay rent or anything, and you moved in. And you moved in on?
I moved in on the 1st.
On the 1st of?
July.
July 1st. Now, Miss Serrano, I'm going to come back to you because this is such a fascinating story. Such a fascinating story. And he deserves to get dumped on a little bit.
Oh, there's more where that came from, yes. I said that's more where that came from, yes.
Okay. And between the time you left and July 1st, when Miss Garrett was invited to come to stay at the house, were you in communication with Mr. Codia?
Yes. I would say like every day or every other day we spoke, arguments, you know how it is.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're pregnant and you have emotions and then you're taking care of family members and whatever. And so I got it. Did he tell you that Miss Garrett was moving in?
Yes.
When?
I would say I found out around like the 27th, 28th.
Of June?
Yes.
Tell me how you found out that she was moving in.
I believe at that point she was already moved in at that point.
Okay. And what made you think that?
Just based off of how the conversation went or how he told me.
Tell me what he told you.
What I was told was that a friend was moving in to solely cook and clean.
See what's happening to him? This fly is getting vengeance on him.
Not getting on me.
What the hell's going on? Oh, you got a swapper too, wow.
I'm waiting for it to come over here.
Yes.
Her former friend, Michael Codia, and his girlfriend, Brianna Serrano, owed for a personal loan and an assault.
Tell me what he told you. I'm curious. I want to know.
What I was told was that a friend was moving in to solely cook and clean. That's what I was told.
Okay, did he tell you who?
Who it was. I never met her.
But he told you who it was?
Yes, he told me who it was.
And that made you, I would probably guess, a little annoyed and unhappy.
I mean, I was annoyed.
I would be annoyed.
I mean, I was annoyed because I had personal things going on, but in between that time before actually realizing that she was living at my apartment, I actually had a brief interaction with her. I met her at a park. I met her. So...
Between the time you moved out?
Yes.
Okay. Was it you met because you contacted each other, or you met by accident?
We met because me and Michael just, had a conversation to have had at that point in time. I'm assuming she was there in the area, so he just wanted to kill two birds with one stone. He said, do you want to meet the person, who's there, who I'm living with, and that's how it went.
And was it a cordial meeting?
Yes, it was.
You met her, she met you?
Yes.
And he said, I just want you to meet the lovely-looking girl that I'm now living with because you went home to take care of your mother.
I guess so, if you wouldn't have put it...
Yes, he...
Don't
This is what your case is about. First, you claim that you loaned Mr. Codia $750 for rent.
Yes.
And you did that because he said once Miss Serrano moved out, she wasn't paying her rent. He was short on rent. That's what I read here. Mr. Codia has a whole different story. He said while he told you that he was a little short on rent and he was going to have to get a third job.
That's not true.
Just a second. You know that somebody was moving into the apartment just to cook and clean? That's what she says.
Yes, that's exactly my words. Exactly my words, yeah.
That's exactly what you told her.
Correct.
You didn't tell Miss Serrano, the soon-to-be mother of your child, that you had a roommate who was paying rent.
I did not.
Miss Serrano, what kind of work were you doing when you were living together in June?
I had a work-from-home position, will still currently do as a Medicaid specialist.
Were you sharing rent with him?
Yes. Everything was 50-50.
Did you pay him any rent in July?
No, I did not.
Did you pay him rent in June?
Yes.
So you paid him the $750. That was your share of the rent? Is that what your share was?
That was my share of the rent. June was already paid for. July I did not pay because I did not believe I was going to be there.
Okay. Tell me what he said to you that caused you to give him this $750.
Well, he texted me one morning and said that Brianna was no longer going to pay her half of the rent as of July, and that if he could...
You were living there already?
Yes, and if I give him $750, he would give it back to me. And we never discussed anything about me cooking or cleaning. I actually brought groceries, which he said that he would pay me back for too, while I'm staying there.
Okay, so you were actually there for 5 days, is that right?
About 5 days.
5-6 days. And at some point around the first week in July, July 5th, 6th, or 7th, you came to the apartment.
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
We had went inside the apartment.
Who's we?
Michael and I, sorry. Michael
so
and
you
I
were so you weren't staying there. Where had you met him?
We actually met at work. We've been together for a year and a half.
I understand that. Yeah. But you came home to the apartment together, and that was, I think, on the 7th of July.
Yes.
On the 7th of July. Where had you been? You'd been out. You hadn't been staying in the apartment.
Oh, no, yeah. I was out actually just going to rosaries and stuff like that. I actually went to go pick him up after a family function from work. After picking him up from work, we went back to the apartment, went upstairs.
Was that the first?
Spent night, and you know.
Have you ever, when you were there, have you seen Miss Garrett?
Nope, but I seen her belongings though.
Okay. But you knew she was there because he told you that she was there.
Exactly.
So on the 7th, you picked him up, you went back to the apartment, and you'd been there before, but you had never actually physically seen her in the apartment.
Correct.
Despite the fact that you knew she was there.
Correct.
Because you'd been introduced to her.
Correct.
Okay. And what happened?
So we went upstairs. She seen that I was with him, and I guess that must have made her mad.
No, just tell me what happened.
So there was an argument.
Tell me what the argument was.
I don't even know what the argument was, honestly. She just seen me, and then there was an argument that unfolded about what I still don't know still to this day.
Okay, so now Miss Garrett, they came home, and?
Okay, so them two never came in the apartment together at all that night, and previously.
No, just tell me that night.
Oh, that night. So me and Michael discussed that, hey, listen, things are not working out. He has had multiple people in and out his house, and he was making me very uncomfortable, as well as Miss Serrano popping up.
So what do you say? He's had multiple people in the house?
Guys, women every night. I would sleep in the park. One night I slept in the park because he had Miss Serrano popping up at 3 o'clock in the morning, her throwing my things around, telling me to get out the house. So I had to go in my car and go sleep in the park. And we had conversations that night when it happened, when she popped up. Hey, can I go sleep?
What date was that?
It was, I want to say July the 2nd or the 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before the 7th.
Right.
Okay. And that's when you went out and slept in the park?
Yes.
Just a second. Mr. Cody, you remember that evening?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And that evening on day with you.
Sadly.
Absolutely right. Going to have two women fight over the prize, the grand prize. Okay. Did you take $750 from her?
No, I
did.
Did
Did you? I didn't ask you with a loan.
Yes,
I didn't ask you. She has proof that she gave it to you.
Yes, she.
Yeah, okay, so let's not play. Did you take $750 from her?
I did.
So it goes back to her. That's $750. Now we're going to get to what she alleges is the remainder of her lawsuit, which is damages for assault. Okay. On the 7th of July, there was some sort of an altercation. You want to tell me what that was?
Yes.
You did something that annoyed him. You went back to take care of your sick mother, which also attests to his bad character. And then what he does is he invites someone, a woman, to come into the house because he knows that it's going to irritate you. That's exactly what happened. He acknowledges that.
Nashera Garrett has accused her former friend, Michael Codia, and his girlfriend, Brianna Serrano, of damaging her car and assaulting her.
Now, on the 7th of July, there was some sort of an altercation. You want to tell me what that was?
Yes. So that evening, I went into the house, and he had his witness, Darius, there. And
this person?
Yes. And me and Michael had conversations about him before, and I just thought it wasn't a good influence. So that evening, I walk in the house, and I'm sorry, let me back that up. I asked Michael if he's gonna have men come in the house, could he please be there while I'm there with them? Because I didn't feel comfortable. He said yes. So when I walked in that evening and saw Darius there, I texted Michael and said, Michael, we need to have another talk, because every talk we have, I'm thinking that we're having understandings, but we're not. So, and Darius set up a whole twin-sized bed up in the living room. It was around 8:30 when Michael had came, and I was sitting in my car. Me and Michael were talking, and...
Was he in your car with you?
No. He was outside of my driver's side. So that's when Miss Brianna came, and she started hitting him upside his head, and I tried to get out of the spot that I was in. And next thing I know, my window's down, and she comes and she's attacking me, punching me in my face. She keyed up my car. When she first came up to my window, she keyed my car. Yeah, I can show you.
What? Okay, did you file a police report?
I didn't.
Why?
I just didn't. I took care of my bruises and my scar. I did call 911, but then I hung up. I just didn't. And
Okay. Do you have photographs of your injury?
Yes. There you go.
So what you're telling me is that this was a scratch across your chest. Mm-hmm. And that's a scratch that was caused by Miss Serrano.
Yes.
And that was in July.
Yes.
Ms. Serrano, I'd like to hear your version of what happened on the 7th of July.
Like I said before, there was just an argument that took place.
I want you to start the argument from the beginning.
Okay.
Okay. She's outside in her car. Mm-hmm. Michael is talking to her at the car.
Oh, yeah.
Did you drive over there or did you walk? How did you get there?
I parked my car like in front of the house because they were on the side street. So I walked.
So you walked there?
Exactly.
You parked the car. Now let me ask you a couple of questions, Ms. Serrano. Yeah. Did Mr. Codia ever go?
They went the day after that. The conversation was going to be for her to leave the house.
Okay. And what were you coming over for? What brought you over there at 8 o'clock at night?
For him.
What do you mean for him?
Well, he left something in my car. He left like the charger or something. It was something he left in my car that I was returning back to him.
Did you tell him you were coming over?
Nope. I just popped up.
The answer is no.
No.
You were curious.
Yes, I was. Of course I was.
There you are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
See what's happening to him? This fly is getting vengeance on him.
Not getting on me.
What the hell's going on? Oh, you got a swapper too? Wow.
I'm waiting for it to come over here. Did you seek medical treatment?
I did not.
Mr. Codia, I'm going to wrap up this case because I really understand it. I believe I understand it. What I don't understand is why, and this doesn't require an answer, it's sort of a rhetorical question, why you would want to take someone who had been a lifelong friend and someone with whom you are having a child and put either one or both of them in a situation, they don't know each other really, so they don't know whether to like each other, whether not to like each other. I mean, I assume that at this point you would, at least Miss Serrano was planning a long-term relationship with you, and she's having a child, and I assume she thinks you're going to be there to be supportive of the child. Maybe. You have other children?
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
I have another son.
Okay, how old?
5 years old, 5.
And he lives with his mother?
Yes, he does.
So you see.
Yes. There you go.
This one's a pesky one. I'm usually good at it. I missed it before. I don't know why you would put them in a situation where they would dislike each other all to satisfy your ego.
Wow.
Oh, that's exactly what you did. You put them in a position where two apparently nice ladies,
The entire time I was with
they just know each other for a long time.
It was way before me, so I guess if you would have put it like that.
And they also went to senior prom together.
Just a second.
Wow, like
I didn't ask you.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I didn't ask you anything. This is not a shout out. What I'm telling you is, it goes to his character. He knows her for a long time. They never had a romantic relationship. With you, he's had a romantic relationship. You did something that annoyed him. You went back to take care of your sick mother, which also attests to his bad character. And then what he does is, he invites a woman to come into the house, lets you know about it, because he knows that it's going to irritate you. That's exactly what happened. He acknowledges that. That doesn't make him a good guy. So I want you to think about that. But I absolutely believe that you caused a scratch on her, which you can't do. Anyway, Mr. Cody, you owe her $750. And Miss Serrano, you can't put your hands on anybody, no matter how angry you are at them. And I'm awarding her $1,000 for you putting your hands on her. Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I was very satisfied.
I mean, I knew it would cause havoc, but
Different women every night,
I try to keep it in secret.
and that's why we stopped being friends before, but I definitely learned my lesson.
I feel like it's unfortunate. I feel like she manipulated the whole situation.
The friendship is over.
Just want to be a father to my child, man.
After working with you now for almost a year, I'm starting to get so jaded from these cases that I'm starting to think that just staying single might be my best option if these are the alternatives. Yeah. Just blows my mind. He admitted to just pitting an old friend and your fiance, who's pregnant with your child, against each other.
To satisfy your ego.
Yes. Sounds like a terrible idea, was a terrible idea, turned out to be a terrible idea, and it'll land you in court on occasion.
You're right, but rethink.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2023, Henderson versus Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Henderson, you and your kids and Miss Williams and her kids decided to rent a house together.
Yes.
And when was that initially?
We moved in January 21st of 2021.
How large a house was it?
5-bedroom.
And who moved in with you?
Me, my 2 children, Tara, her 3 children, and...
The third roommate?
Yes.
What was your share of the rent?
The share of the rent.
Yours?
$14.95.
And yours?
We paid, me and her split it, and then took cash from...
The third roommate?
Yes. So $14.95 too.
And you lived there for a year. What I gather is sort of towards the end of the year, things were getting a little testy between the two of you, either because of you or because of the kids. You had children, and things weren't working out, so that both of you were not real happy with each other. That be a fair statement?
Yes. It started earlier in 2021.
I'm sure, but at the time that the lease was up, you both weren't really happy with each other. And according to your complaint, she left, you were stuck paying the rent, and she had signed a renewal of the lease, and you want her to pay her portion of the rent until you found a new roommate, which you actually found a new roommate several months later. The defendant says she told you that she was contemplating living with you for another year, that her speculation that you went into her room and took a signed copy of the lease and gave it to the rental agent or whoever it was.
It would have been in the kitchen in my area where my papers were.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And it was never her intention to sign a second lease. Your lease was up in January of 2022.
Yes.
The defendant was away for a period of time. When was the defendant away? Just prior to January of 2022.
She went to Hawaii for...
Landlord?
No, they were turned in December.
By both of you?
For the lease renewal, all 3 of us re-signed in December. And I have a copy of that.
What I'm asking you is, were they turned in, because that's very easy to verify, were they all turned in before she went to Hawaii?
Yes.
Okay. I'll see what you have. Well, Miss Williams, if it's your statement that she took your signed copy of the lease and turned it in without your permission at some point when you were in Hawaii, that's what you're alleging. If this doesn't bear that out, Miss Williams, I'm going to tell you it doesn't lend itself to the truth of that statement, because this indicates that the two of you and the third roommate signed this on December the 19th. Then you turned it in. Then it was turned in. That was before you went to Hawaii. The landlord signed it on December 20th, which means that if the landlord signed it on December 20th, he signed it before you went to Hawaii, which means she couldn't have stolen your copy of the lease.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I'm not stating I was in Hawaii when she turned it in. I left for Hawaii January 8th through the 18th.
I understand that.
Okay. I was unaware.
When our lease was up for renewal, we weren't getting along, and I was on the fence about spending another year with Ellen. In December, we received a copy of the lease renewal. I felt pressured into signing it, but then we told Ellen we needed more till I returned. Where did you go?
I went to Hawaii.
Well, that was in January.
Yes.
Well, but the landlord got a copy of the signed agreement December 20th.
I didn't know it was turned in.
Oh, well,
receive an
I
email.
don't know whether it was turned in or not.
So I emailed Rincon, and I have messages stating it was received from Ellen.
Okay. I'll see what you have. Okay. No. This doesn't say that at all. Lease renewal was signed by all three tenants. Correct. Lease was signed by all three tenants, and it was received before you went to Hawaii on the 20th of December. Okay. Easy. You moved out in February?
January 31st of 22.
When was the first lease up?
The 22nd of January 22.
So you stayed on after the lease was up?
Yes.
Why?
I wasn't completely moved out yet. I was in
that's too
Hawaii.
bad.
I had reached out to Rincon about paying extra to pay the extra few days.
No. Okay. And when did you get a new roommate? Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I
No, just a second.
I did not.
Did you blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off. You blew her off.
Yes.
About the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good.
Ellen Henderson claims her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, broke their lease and filed a false restraining order against her. Tara is countersuing for her security deposit, utilities, and damaged property.
Okay. When did you get a new roommate?
She moved in
About February and March. $14.95, $29.90. Okay. The next part of your case involves filing for a false restraining order. Did you file a restraining order, Miss Williams, against Miss Henderson?
Yes.
I'd like to see what it says. No, don't give me that whole thing. Your application for a restraining order, I'd like to see what your application for... Don't hand them that whole thing. I said I'd like to see what your application for a restraining order said. Okay, so what you say is she sent you 3 letters. You're asking because she sent you 3 letters. They were annoying. I want to know what she was asking for in those letters. Was she asking for rent money? Was she asking for rent?
Yes.
Okay, so she was asking for her money.
Yes.
For your rent money for the months that she didn't have a roommate. Well, that's not harassment, madam.
There's more, but...
What?
There's more. She's telling me that I stole some of her stuff and stuff. In the first letter, it says, if you don't pay this in 5 days, we'll take...
Yeah, she's allowed to say that. Okay.
Yeah, which
so
is
she wrote
totally
to you.
fine, but she sent it 2 more times, emailed it, and then showed up at my children's school while I was dropping them off.
Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I...
No, just a second.
I did not.
Did you blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off.
Yes, I was fine with going to court.
You blew her off.
Yes.
About the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good. $29.90 is what she owes you for rent. Now, part of your counterclaim for Get Money for Day.
It was half of.
How much was your security deposit?
$1,747.50.
1,747. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And where is her security deposit?
In our lease, it states that if you break the lease, the deposit stays with the house. And I have an email from the property management stating that same thing, that she signed a lease saying that if she leaves early, the money stays with the house until everyone moves out.
So the security deposit, if you and your new roommate keep the house safe, you're going to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't allege any damage. Is that correct?
I had to clean up the carpets in her room upstairs. And
Okay, do you have an invoice for that?
No, I did it myself.
Okay, 2990 less 1747?
$1,243.
So far, she owes you $1,243. That's less the security deposit, which you and your hopefully neat roommate will get back.
May I say something about the payments for rent? So it was me and her doing equal rent at $1,795.25. So that's what I paid. Me and her paid that in January, and I paid the entire amount in February, March.
I understand she was no longer paying rent. You're getting the rent, but I'm deducting from that.
My portion is $1,795, and that's what I'm asking her for, because that's what her portion was when she moved out as well.
Just a second. Am I correct that she, at the time you moved in, individually paid as a security deposit $1,747? Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the rent payments. It's not $1,495, it's $1,795.
Was your rent each month $1,495 or $1,795?
$1,495.
Can I see it? Anybody have any proof of that?
I printed out the log, but she paid us $300.
The third roommate.
Right.
So your amount was $1,495.
Correct.
I got it. Okay.
Up until the end of December.
Okay, I'm finished. Now, the next part of your counterclaim is for utilities. Security deposit you get back. What utilities do you think she owes you?
She did not pay me November, December, January, or February closing for utilities.
Did you pay them?
I paid them.
I'd like to see where you paid them. No, don't give me a whole bunch of papers. I don't want to see a whole bunch of papers that I have to go through. I want to see what utilities there were, when you sent her a statement of what the utilities were.
Yes.
I assume it worked that she paid you a portion of the utilities.
Yes, it was
What
split.
portion of the utilities did you pay?
We split it equally the whole time we were there.
Okay, so whatever utility bills that were paid by her, you were supposed to pay half.
Correct. Which
did you?
My last payment to her was December 4th for Spectrum Water, Trash, and Gas.
That was 12/4. How much did you pay her?
$364.61.
Okay, just a second. Did she pay you $364 in December?
She did for prior months.
So that was for November. That covered November. If it was paid in December, that covered November.
It would have been more so October. I
can't get involved with that, madam. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. December and January statement for utilities. You were gone in February.
Yes.
December and January, settle up on the utilities.
And I didn't include it in the lawsuit, but she still owes me for trash. And I have a list of stuff that she took of mine that I did.
I'm not interested in it, Miss Henderson.
And
it didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
About 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me.
Ellen Henderson has accused her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, of breaking their lease. Tara claims she filed the restraining order because Ellen was stalking her.
Miss Henderson, it didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
We have a bill for December and January. If there's anything here That's not December and January. I'm dismissing that part of your claim. And I already have a bill that's dated April of 2022.
Right, that was for January and February water.
That's $390. Billing date 4/14. No.
It was.
No. I want you, because I'm losing my patience slowly. Please read out the bills, the total bills for December and January only. Sarah, get ready.
Can it go till February 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, while she's looking for that, did you go to her kid's school?
I mailbox. She knew it was coming from me, and I had to go back to the mailbox and get it after a month.
Okay.
And I didn't know where she lived. I didn't know how else to reach her.
Okay. Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
At about 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me. What was the date?
May 25th.
Oh, yeah, that was her kid's school. That was her kid's school when I delivered the letter.
Well, that's why she filed for protective order against you. Not unreasonable. It was dismissed after a hearing, or it was just dismissed?
It was dismissed after a hearing.
Yeah. Part of your claim for filing a false restraining order is dismissed. I could actually see why you would get frightened if somebody went to your kid's school to serve you papers. Okay, what are the bills for utilities?
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I had to give her those letters in order to file for small claims.
Okay.
I had tried to mail it, and she didn't go to the post office.
I got it. Could we have the utilities? Which utility and what is it? You should have all this together for me and not make it difficult. Okay. This is why you were coming. Don't read out the numbers, what the utility is for what month and the amount.
So water, $257.94. Water for February was $132.09. For 12/03 bill date for electricity was $167.
What date?
12/20.
That's December.
Yes,
but that was for November.
I thought we were doing December, January.
For December, but you wouldn't have 12/03. They're not prorated. Come on, let's go.
Okay, 2/04. This was prepared for electricity, $74.72.
Okay.
This one was for the date that I ended of 1/28 to 2/01. It was $12.78 for Edison electricity.
Let's move on.
And then this is gas for 12/29 to 1/27. It was $37.04. And then the ending charges was $5.72.
Got it? Yes. $5.72. I can't believe it. Okay, would you add those up? Yeah. And your arrangement with her, Ms. Henderson, was that you each paid half of the utilities. Is that right?
Yeah. Can I say something about that too? Back in April or May of 2021, I went to her to speak and ask about me paying less for water, gas, and electric because she brought all of her Airbnb laundry. She has a cleaning business. And our washers and dryers were going constantly.
And
she didn't meet me halfway, so I was stuck paying half.
Fine.
I have the total whenever you're ready. $507.51.
Divide it by 2.
$254.
$1,243 less $254. $1,243 is what she's owed now, less the security deposit. I love this case. Couldn't be more excited about it.
$989.
Judgment for the plaintiff, $989.
Your Honor,
I had finished. Thank you very much. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you.
It's sad that I lost, but I put up a good fight.
I'm happy with the decision.
She didn't want to live with me, that there were issues. Why would you turn in a lease to renew for a whole nother entire year with someone?
It's been a lot of stress.
I wanted her to file suit so I could see her in court in order to take care of the matter.
I had nowhere to go, and I didn't think she was going to renew. We got along, and I loved her and her kids, and I don't know that I could have done anything different.
So the new phenomenon that I've seen over this past generation, for as long as I've been in this business, is because of the economy, people having to live together that are neither in love with each other or related to each other. And I actually think, Sarah, that's such a very hard thing to do. Mm-hmm. You know, this isn't the first case that we've had that involved adults and their kids having to, for financial reasons, move in with each other. I think I've always said, and I don't know how you feel about this, that I'd rather live in a shoebox alone than with strangers in more comfortable surroundings.
Sure. I think that's a tough call that a lot of people are having to make nowadays with the cost of living and inflation.
Young people.
Young people. 2 single mothers trying to live together with their children to give them a home environment. So it's a risk that you take when you don't know the other person. Even when you do know them, we see family members fighting all the time. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people have to make those kinds of choices for happiness. Shouldn't create that kind of stress.
I think the best thing you can do is have a concrete contract to fall back on for if something like this happens, because it's a very stressful situation.
Yeah, but nobody wants to take that risk. Yeah. Nobody wants to, who's signing a lease agreement, say, if it doesn't work out, this is what happens. Well, that's never between the tenant and the landlord. As between those two people, maybe it would be enforceable, but not between the two tenants and the landlord.
Landlords.
Number 25, 1988 Pontiac Firebird, $4,200. You may get a 1988 Pontiac Firebird with a V8 engine for as cheap as $4,200. Even in perfect condition, automobiles cost less than $15,000, which is half the price of an early 1970s model. Like the Chevy version, the Firebird's style has evolved over time, but it is still possible to find an attractive appearance or modify the 88 to make it seem better. In any case, it's one of the greatest cars to have as a project or showpiece in the driveway. The 1980s were generally bad for muscle vehicles of any type, and the Pontiac Firebird was no exception. The bigger V8 engines were replaced under the hoods with smaller 6-cylinder units, and the horsepower of the engines decreased. A couple 8-cylinder variants, the 305 and the 350, were still available for the Firebird in 1988. The 305 could reach 60 miles per hour from a standstill in 6.9 seconds, and it could complete the quarter-mile strip in 15.2 seconds. Number 24, 1979 Pontiac Firebird Esprit, $4,600. You would imagine that the Pontiac Firebird Esprit would be more costly when it became available because it is less well known than the standard Firebird or Trans Am. That is untrue though, as the price range for these automobiles is between $5,900 and $29,900, with better than average models commanding a premium. The 2.8-liter V6 and the 5.7-liter V8 engines that the Esprit was available with might vary in power and price depending on the type of project you may be working on. The 1979 Pontiac Firebird Esprit in V6 trim was a sluggish vehicle, extremely slow. It's not too difficult to replace the V8 engine though, given the car did arrive with one under the hood. The V6, on the other hand, can reach 60 miles per hour in 14.4 seconds, which is fast enough to slip out of traffic if you prefer style over efficiency. Number 23, 1988 Chevrolet Camaro. With a starting used price of $4,600, this Chevy looks expensive but cheap. Redesigned to cut emissions, the Chevy Camaro underwent similar changes to the majority of other models after the early 1970s. The 1988 Chevy Camaro's basic engine, a tiny 6-cylinder with respectable power, could not compete with the 305 base engine that was an option. Any engine size may be easily removed and replaced with a larger, more powerful engine, which is a prosodic feature. When the time comes to sell it off and recoup your investment, it can, of course, always be kept original, which will raise its worth. A more well-liked 350 may easily take the place of the 305, but if left alone, you could expect to get 0 to 60 times in approximately 7.4 seconds, and a quarter-mile run in up to 15.6 seconds, with a top speed of almost 91 miles per hour. The 305's maximum speed, which is attained by 190 horsepower and 240 pound-feet of torque, is an average of 149 miles per hour.